Yeah, what's up, my people? The voice you're hearing here is the voice of Okute Daily News, the Obonga channel where we bring to you every news media line. Are you talking about Arise News, Channel Television, AIT, and many more? So please, also Symphony is involved. It's not forgotten. So the voice you're hearing here now, the people that is going to talk to you through AIT, that is African Independent Television, is by Nemo Adora Sidney Jackie. She is the anchor on this very news. This one, we can call it a situation room or whatever you talk or whatever you may choose to call it. Because most of our sons, senior advocate of Nigeria, they have analyzed this election or whatever and what need to be done before the inauguration day on 29th day of May 2023. So my people, as you are watching, make sure you are subscribing and sharing this information with your other people. Share it in a different platform that you belong. I'll be right back also to give you my own side of the story as they are doing here. So my people, please hear this news from the horse's mouth. Have a nice day. I'll be right back. Thank you.
For upcoming electoral cases to be televised and judgments delivered before 29th May 2023, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Olisa Abakoba, says it is possible to conclude presidential election petitions in April, provided that the court systems are very provocative.
Agbakoba noted that the tension around the call for an interim government was due to expectations that the tribunal may not deliver judgments before 29th May 2023.
Well, in spite of being proactive, the senior advocate said on the arbitration matters, orders and directions are issued peremptorily to resolve complex jurisdictional and procedural issues.
In a statement, he urged the Presidential Election Tribunal to adapt the procedures very familiar with speedy conclusion of arbitration matters.
Indeed, and he also said if the petitions were arbitration proceedings, an arbitrator may issue a procedural order to address all complex disputes and deliver a partial final award.
In the same vein, Agbakoba charged the tribunal and the Supreme Court to give the order, address the jurisprudential issues raised, and release a final summary judgment.
Indeed, there's been a lot of conversations around this. I mean, even though we know there is a lackluster kind of faith by the populace on whether the judiciary will do what it's meant to do, but then again, the call for interim government amongst all the arguments coming, Perry, I think that's really why, you know, this conversation is important, to be able to draw the line between what really is important towards looking at a democratic space pending when we see the inauguration. But I don't know what your takes are on this.
Very certainly. For me, for example, a lot of Nigerians are looking forward to, validating the legitimacy that they own when, of course, they understand how the government works. And for a lot of them, the chorus is, give us a judgment before May 29th.
Absolutely, so that there can be some sort of peace. Well, we shall be looking at the Presidential Election Tribunal and the agitation for speedy consideration by the Court of Appeal to give Supreme Court the sufficient time to conclude before 29th May 2023.
An election analyst, Austin Aigbe, and a lawyer, Maxwell Okpara, will be joining us to look at these issues.
Indeed. But away from that, and thereafter, we shall also be discussing the DSS alert. On the alert plans to install an interim government by some political class who has the power or advantage position to install an interim government. That's the question. A lot of people are asking, is DSS accusing the outgoing government? Can the opposition be held responsible? What is the position of the law on the right to protest? And really, what's the difference between a legitimate protest and violence?
A lawyer, Tochukwu Oyozuike, will be joining us also to analyze these issues.
Indeed, that's what we said earlier. There's lots of questions begging for answers, looking in between the line. I mean, what is the human right angle of people protesting, peacefully? And what is also the human right angle, people demanding for an interim government? Is it in the Constitution, Perry? And I think these are the questions that probably we'll be looking at further on in the show. But remember, you can also send your views and comments through our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube handle at AIT Kakaki and at official AIT Live to stay up to date on today's biggest stories. In the meantime, join me on the news desk so that we can see what's happening around the world. This is the World News on Kakaki, the African Voice. Will touch down first in the United States, where former U.S. President Donald Trump left Manhattan's criminal courthouse on Tuesday after pleading not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records after an investigation into hush money paid to a porn star. Now, Trump, the frontrunner for the 2024 Republican nomination, is the first sitting or former U.S. president to face criminal charges. He was indicted by a Manhattan grand jury last week in the case stemming from a 2016 hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels, though the specific charges had yet to be disclosed. He was due to return to Florida and deliver remarks from his Mar-a-Lago resort at 8:15 p.m. on Tuesday, taken together. And of course, the charges carry a maximum sentence of more than 100 years in prison under New York law, but an actual prison sentence, if he is convicted at a trial, would almost certainly be far less than that. Now, while falsifying business records in New York on its own is a misdemeanor punishable by no more than 1 year in prison, it is elevated to a felony punishable by up to 4 years in prison when done to advance or conceal another crime. Now, the Finnish president, Sauli Niinisto, has revealed that Finland will work hard to secure Sweden's membership of NATO. He said this shortly after his own country formally became the 31st country to join the Atlantic Alliance. Now, Finland and Sweden applied together to join NATO following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Of NATO's existing members, Hungary and Turkey have still to ratify Sweden's membership application. Now, Finland's accession roughly doubles the length of the border that NATO shares with Russia and bolsters its eastern flank as the war in Ukraine grinds on with no resolution in sight. Now, Niinisto said Finland's most significant contribution to NATO's common deterrence and defense would be to defend its own territory, saying there is still significant work to be done to coordinate this with NATO. The Kremlin said Russia would be forced to take countermeasures to Finland's accession, and then Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said the move raised the prospect of the conflict in Ukraine escalating further. Russia had said on Monday it would strengthen its military capacity in its western and northwestern regions in response to Finland joining NATO. Now, Peru's Congress has rejected the motion from leftist lawmakers to launch impeachment hearings against President Dina Boluarte on charges tied to the deaths of protesters, the latest chapter in the country's political volatility. The final tally from Tuesday's vote saw 37 mostly leftist lawmakers vote in support of a motion to remove caretaker leader Boluarte for moral incapacity, falling short of the 52 votes needed to advance the trial to potentially remove her in the 130-seat legislature. Now, Peru has been mired in intense political infighting for years, with several recent ex-presidents arrested or jailed. Now, Boluarte has backed investigations into the deaths and has denied responsibility. Peru's Attorney General's office is investigating Boluarte for the alleged crimes of genocide, qualified homicide, and serious injuries relating to the protest deaths. Boluarte, Peru's sixth president since 2016, is also under investigation by the Attorney General's office for alleged money laundering and campaign finance crimes during 2021 presidential campaign that brought Castillo to power. She denies the accusations. And in Russia, Russian investigators on Tuesday formally charged Daria Trepova, a 26-year-old woman, with terrorism offenses over the killing of a pro-war military blogger Vladimir Tatarsky in the bomb blast in St. Petersburg. Trepova arrived at Moscow's Basmany court on Tuesday afternoon after being transferred from St. Petersburg to the Russian capital. Now, prosecutors were expected to ask the district court to remand her in pre-trial detention. Tatarsky, a cheerleader for Russia's military campaign in Ukraine, whose real name was Maxim Fomin, was killed on Sunday, April 2nd, when an explosion ripped through a cafe where he was due to talk. Russia's investigative committee, which probes major crimes, said it had charged Trepova with committing a terrorist act by an organized crime group that caused international debt. It also said she had acted under instructions from people working on behalf of Ukraine. Now, residents living in the shadow of Colombia's rumbling Nevado del Ruiz volcano have refused to evacuate their homes after an orange alert was issued last week following a significant increase in seismic activity. Now, Colombian authorities said they plan to evacuate people living within 15 kilometers, 9 miles of Nevado del Ruiz volcano, which is being monitored for a possible eruption in the coming days, with more evacuations possible. Officials said the evacuations are preventative as areas nearest to the volcano have poor communication infrastructure and would be difficult to contact in the event of an eruption. The Nevado del Ruiz is a stratovolcano or composite volcano which straddles the border between Colombia's Tolima and Caldas provinces. The Nevado was the cause of Colombia's biggest ever natural disaster when it erupted in 1985, melting ice and snow and causing avalanches of earth and rock fragments which buried the entire settlements. It killed more than 25,000 people. Now, Mexico's president said he had written to his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping, urging him to help control shipments of fentanyl as he fended off criticism in the U.S. that Mexico is not doing enough to stop trafficking of the synthetic opioid. Now, President Andres Manuel López Obrador read out a letter to Xi dated March 22nd in which he defended efforts to curb supply of the deadly drug while rounding on U.S. critics, some of whom want Washington to intervene militarily in Mexico. Now, speaking at a news conference, López Obrador said the letter took shape after a recent visit by U.S. lawmakers in which they proposed to speak to China to address the fentanyl threat. Fentanyl has been blamed for fueling a surge in overdose deaths in the U.S., and Republican lawmakers especially have accused Mexico of failing to stop drug cartels producing and moving the powerful painkiller north. In his letter, López Obrador asked Xi if he could provide Mexico with information on when and where fentanyl was being sent, as well as how much and by whom. And U.S. officials contest the view that fentanyl is not produced in Mexico, arguing the opioid is mass-produced in the country using chemicals sourced largely from China. Now, hundreds of Google employees staged a walkout at the company's London offices on Tuesday following a dispute over layoffs. Now, in January, Google's parent company Alphabet announced it was laying off 12,000 employees worldwide, equivalent to 6% of its global workforce. The move came amid a wave of job cuts across corporate America, particularly in the tech sector, which has so far seen companies shed more than 290,000 workers since the start of the year, according to tracking site. Now, trade union Unite, which counts hundreds of Google's UK employees among its members, said the company had ignored concerns put forward by employees. A project manager at Google, 37-year-old Luca Danesi, said the process was not really fair, adding that it was disappointing to see a company that you believed in so much managing people like that. Google's senior management has been engaged in redundancy talks in many parts of Europe in line with local employment laws. For a company that once had a strapline of "Don't be evil" has been pretty evil in the way they have treated the staff, said Unite Regional Officer Matt Wally. Now, last month, workers at the company's Zurich office in Switzerland staged a similar walkout, with employee representatives claiming that Google had rejected their proposals to reduce job cuts. Google employs more than 5,000 people in the United Kingdom. Nigeria's House of Representatives has condemned calls for an interim government mandating security agencies to be on alert to forestall possible breakdown of law and order in the country. Now, the House resolution followed a motion of urgent public importance by Unyeme Idem from Akwa Ibom State.
Since the conclusion of the general election, protests, demonstrations and calls for a rerun of the exercise has gained momentum in many parts of the country by Nigerians who are dissatisfied with the election outcome.
I think this matter is a very straightforward one.
Presenting a motion of urgent public importance at plenary, Uyime Idem raised concerns that if the plots are not urgently curtailed, the country will be thrown into anarchy.
Interim government is unknown to our laws. Interim government is undemocratic. Interim government is not something that we should support. Taking into consideration that our democracy is a young one. At this point, I think it is our duty to do everything within our strength to support the current democracy that we are enjoying, to strive and then stay. I mean, the people that are making this call, I see them as the enemies of this country.
Uyeme's motion got the support of some of his colleagues who called on security agencies to rise in support of democracy, condemning the conduct of certain politicians whose actions they described as betraying the country.
This issue has been going round in different cycles for those that have lost out. Nigerians have the characteristics when they lose out, they want things to be taken back to the melting pot so that everybody will put his spoon and try his luck. This will not happen. Every level of this country, every participant in this democratic process must fight this, because it will take us 2.5 decades back.
It is our duty to condemn such utterances as we have seen recent days, seeming to support an extra-legal takeover power in Nigeria. Democracy comes with certain prices. You do not win all the time. Nigerians must have the appropriate democratic temper in order to be able to succeed in our practice of democracy.
But for some others, like Osai, the DSS advisory confirming the plot of an interim government was a mere speculation.
The subject of the issue now, does it mean that the state security agencies are speculating? It's strange, very, very strange in the history of this country that the chief of the security agency can speculate without naming them. This National Assembly and zero down to House of Rep is the temple of democracy. Can the temple of democracy discuss what is not fact? Can the temple of democracy discuss issues that are not available?
The House warned aggrieved political parties to desist from hitting the polity, asking them to keep faith in the country's judiciary to do justice to their petitions. Ugianabe Udwimo, AIT News, Abuja.
And now to some stories on mainstreaming women. The Minister of Women Affairs, Pauline Tallen, wants the incoming president to uphold the 35% affirmative action in its appointments to remedy for the loss suffered by women in the 2023 general election. The Women Affairs Minister made the call on Tuesday while reacting to the just concluded general election.
2023 election, which ushers in the 10th Assembly, has witnessed a drought in the number of women in elective positions since Nigeria's democracy. The Women Affairs Minister says Nigerian women are saddened by this ugly development. 3 women in the Senate and 15 in the House of Representatives, and want justice for the victims whose mandates were stolen on the basis of their gender.
I believe that with the clear evidence most of them have shown me, when they take up this matter, they will be able to, their mandates will be restored back. Let there be justice in the justice system. The incoming rerun is slated for the 15th. We are very much concerned. We are very much interested, and we are praying.
Thailand wants the incoming administration to be fair to women in its appointive positions by giving due diligence to the 35% affirmative actions.
And his team to make sure they fill in the gap and ensure that the 35% affirmative action that has been approved in the Federal Executive Council, the gender policy, which stipulates 35%, will be actually implemented. It is doable. Other countries have done it. Small African countries that we call ourselves the giant of Africa have done it. What stops Nigeria from doing it?
Nigerian women have been calling for the concessioning of political power-sharing opportunities to meet the United Nations 35% affirmative action in order to be relevant in the politics and the governance of the country. Kedonojo Okoliko, AIT News, Abuja.
Now to some media intervention. The Executive Director, Media Rights Agenda, Nitan Ojo, and the Executive Director, International Press Center, Lanre Arogundade, have called on the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, to immediately reverse the fine imposed on Channels TV, saying the media outfit was not given the opportunity to defend itself. In a signed joint statement, they reiterated that the fundamental principles that ought to guide the regulation of broadcasting and related activities are the ones that advance the public interest and are investment friendly, both of which have been discarded in the handling of the petition put forward by Bayo Onanuga, Director of Media and Publicity of the All Progressive Congress Presidential Campaign Council. They added that the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, acted arbitrarily in the purported exercise of its powers as a regulatory authority for the broadcast sector in Nigeria. Now, although the NBC did not disclose the material fact in its announcement of the sanction, the regulatory body apparently acted on a widely publicized petition addressed to it by Bayo Onanuga, in which he demanded that the station be punished over the interview in question. Now, assuming without conceding that Channels TV erred in the management of the said interview, it was still pertinent for the NBC to have heard this side of the story. And failing to do so, the NBC acted unfairly and unjustly, as it is based its heavy-handed decision on the claims of one side only. The media group said the path the NBC is walking undermines its credibility and independence and weakens the broadcast sector as a result. The call on the Commission to immediately reverse the hastily imposed fine of 5 million and give Channels TV the deserved opportunity to defend itself. Now, the President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered the Executive Vice Chairman, EVC, of the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASENI, Professor Mohammed Sani Haruna, to immediately hand over to the next most senior officer in the establishment. Now, this follows the reversal of the extension in office granted by the President himself from April 2nd, 2023 to April 2nd, 2025, due to the fact that the EVC had completed 2 tenures of 5 years each in the organization. In a statement by Willie Bassi, Director, Information Office of the Secretary to the Government of Federation, the President appreciates the contributions of Professor Haruna in the development of the engineering infrastructure subsector of the economy and wishes him success in his future endeavors. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, and the Nigeria Customs Service have signed a memorandum of understanding that will inflict maximum loss on drug cartels in the country. Now, at the MOU signing ceremony, which held at the NDLEA headquarters in Abuja on Tuesday, the chairman of the Anti-Narcotic Agency, retired Brigadier General Buba Marawa, enumerated the benefits of the document.
The expected outcome of these series of interactions is to foster better understanding of the respective roles and mandates of our two organizations and how they complement one another in a mutually inclusive way. The ultimate objective is to dissolve suspicion, friction, and general interagency rivalry that does not do our nation any good in terms of effectively securing the entry and exit points.
In his remarks, the customs chief said the MOU will strengthen their collaborations to win the war against drug abuse. The both agreed that the days of brazen illicit drug trafficking in the country are numbered. But that's the world news on Kakaki, the African Voice. Up next is Kakaki Business and Choma Okuli standing by. Choma, good morning.
Good morning, Adora.
How are you doing today?
Very well.
Well, it's just fascinating. I mean, the last story before that, where we see, you know, a member of the sector of the NASENI, you know, appointed, reappointed, and then asked to go home. But then he also leaves a lot of communication between the executive and, you know, the MDAs and what really the line and chain of actions is. Indeed.
I think they probably didn't do their due diligence. I mean, if they had found out anything prior to this time, they would have brought it, forward. But I don't think it's a nice thing to do. I told you, it can only happen in Nigeria.
I pray you should stop. Over to you.
Thank you, Adora. Hello and welcome to the midweek edition of Kakaki Business. I am Chioma Okole. And today on Business, Nigeria's foreign direct investment is down by 33% to $462.91 million. Now, this is the lowest level since 2017. This data is coming from the National Bureau of Statistics. Plus, NNPCL denies paying 20 billion naira to ghost consultants, says the claim of missing 20 billion naira is absolutely false and baseless. We'll be bringing you details of these reports and more after the trending business stories. Stay with us. Welcome back. We begin with the technology sector. The Australian authorities have banned TikTok on all federal government-owned devices over security concerns, becoming the latest U.S. allied country to take action against the Chinese-owned video app. The ban underscores growing worries that China could use the Beijing-based company owned by ByteDance Limited to harvest users' data to advance its political agenda, undermining Western security interests. With Australia's ban, all members of the so-called Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, which consists of Australia, Canada, the United States, Britain and New Zealand, have banned the app from government devices. France, Belgium and the European Commission have announced similar bans. Staying with the technology sector, hundreds of Google employees staged a walkout at the company's London offices on Tuesday following a dispute over layoffs. In January, Google's parent company Alphabet announced it was laying off 12,000 employees worldwide, equivalent to 6% of its global workforce. The move came amid a job cut across the corporate America, particularly in the tech sector, which has so far seen companies shed more than 290,000 workers since the start of the year, according to tracking site layoffs. Trade union Unite, which counts hundreds of Google's UK employees among its members, said the company had ignored concerns put forward by the employees. And to China now, where the consumer market registered steady recovery in the first quarter of this year, thanks to the implementation of some stimulus policies. Vice Minister of Commerce Sheng Qingping outlined a slew of policies taken across the country in the first quarter to stimulate consumption, including those on boosting the sales of used cars and new energy vehicles and on promoting consumption of green smart home appliances. The 15-minute community living circle refers to the community business which is within 15 minutes walk from residential communities and can meet the demands of people, basic and quality consumption in their daily life. In March, China's services business activity index reached 56.9%, up 1.3 percentage points from the previous month. The index has been in the expansion rate for 3 months in a row. And in the area of oil production, the voluntary oil production cut announced on Sunday is supporting the stability of the oil market, according to members of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and its allies, known collectively as OPEC Plus, at a meeting on Monday. At the 48th meeting of the Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee via video conference, the committee reviewed the crude oil production data for the month of January and February 2023 and noted that overall conformity for participating OPEC and non-OPEC countries of the Declaration of Cooperation, that's a DOC. A DOC signed in 2016 between OPEC countries and several non-OPEC oil-producing countries is committed to supporting sustainable stability in the global oil markets. The meeting noted that the oil production cut is a precautionary measure aimed at supporting the stability of the oil market. On Sunday, several oil-producing countries unexpectedly announced crude oil outputs cuts of about 1.6 million barrels per day from May until the end of 2023. Oil prices surged in the wake of the announcement. Staying with the oil production cut, U.S. President Joe Biden says the OPEC Plus production cut announced over the weekend was not going to be as bad as people think. Biden was asked about the OPEC Plus move, which caused a jump in oil benchmark prices as he boarded Air Force One in Minnesota for the return trip to Washington after touring a factory. Oil benchmarks jumped 6% on Monday, the day after the OPEC Plus group jolted markets with plans to cut more production, raising fears of tightening supplies, while some warned of reduced demand if oil refineries flinch at paying higher prices for crude. The latest pledges brings the total volume of cuts by OPEC Plus to 3.66 million barrels per day, including a 2 million barrels cut last October, according to data which is equal to about 3.7% of global demand. Our developing Asian countries will grow faster than previously thought this year, dampened by the stronger than pre-projected rebound in China, while financial stability risks from banking turmoil could weigh on the outlook. The Asian Development Bank, that's the ADB, says developing Asia, which groups 46 companies in the Asia-Pacific, is forecast to grow 4.8% in 2023. The ADB said in its Asian Development Outlook report stronger than its previous estimate of 4.6% in December and follows a 4.2% growth in 2022. Announced to reports making rounds in Nigeria. If you are worried about the capacity in the power sector and transfer of requisite knowledge needed to man the sector, you are not alone. Young graduates have been selected across different fields of engineering for training in Abuja. This is in the bid to improve operational capacity of personnel in the power sector and address the incessant collapse of power infrastructure in the country. The internship is organized by the Nigerian Delta Power Holding Company. The graduates are coming from the 6 geopolitical zones of the country.
Over the years that we had the best resources in NDPC in terms of engineering knowledge, power sector knowledge, and we needed to pass that on, help young engineering graduates to be able to access that knowledge and then help it gives them an advantage in trying to find jobs, in trying to find placements in the sector, and obviously in choosing a career direction.
We have a lot of competent engineers, and what NDPSC is doing today is to add to that pool of engineers by going through the base and pick up these young engineering graduates and train them and to build them on the right track to be very competent and be able to support the improvement of the power sector in Nigeria.
A lot of our young people, they're turned out of universities and educational institutions, and they're they're really of very little use in the industry. So we are trying to address that gap and produce amongst the young people employable, skilled young men and women who have skill sets relevant to the power sector.
By the time they're done with this internship program, they are ready to hit the market running. Anywhere they present their CVs, because this is going to go down in their CVs, anywhere they present their CVs, everybody will be willing to take them on, to come and work for them. So this is, as I said, is corporate social responsibility program from NDPHC.
Has experienced epileptic power supply, infrastructure decay, and manpower shortages Over the years, the NNDPHC is aimed at addressing some of these challenges. In the area of investment drive, the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, has called on heads of ministries, departments and agencies to entrench the provisions of the Business Facilitation Act 2022 in the framework of their organizations to eliminate critical bottlenecks and stimulate investment. Malami made this known during a stakeholders sensitization session organized by the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council on the Business Facilitation Act BFA 2022 in Abuja.
DRIVE also has stated several executive orders aimed at encouraging trade and stimulating foreign investments in Nigeria. We wish to acknowledge the giant strides and initiatives being undertaken by the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council (FEBEC), which is dedicated to eradicating bureaucratic constraints to doing business in Nigeria and making the country a progressively easier place to start and grow business.
Advisor to the President on Ease of Doing Business, Jumoke Oduwole, says the implementation of the Act will yield a sustained growth for the Nigerian economy through a more business-friendly environment.
Hosted this event and told ministries, departments and agencies that this could potentially expose the federal government to legal liability because private sector know about this act and will take action on it. So the service level agreements are binding and need to be adhered to.
The Business Facilitation Act amends 21 critical business facilitation laws and codifies Executive Order 001 of 2017 on the promotion of transparency and efficiency in the business environment. Now, good news for the people of Benue State, as the state government says it has secured 84 billion naira debt swap deal from the federal government to drastically reduce the overall debt burden of the state. The Benue State Commissioner of Finance, David Olufu, made this known at the end of the State Executive Council SEC meeting presided over by the Governor, Samuel Otom, in Makurdi. He said the feat was achieved through a debt swap agreement initiated by the Nigerian government's forum.
David Olofo, State Commissioner for Finance, gives an insight into the debt cancellation deal, which would help the incoming administration start on a clean slate.
The government over time dip hands into those accounts and spent money on subsidy amounting to about $12 billion and other responsibilities of the federal government. This came to a total of about $18 billion.
Olofo also highlights the federal government's interventions accessed by the state government under the Otom-led administration.
This administration assessed between 2015 and now, assessed federal government intervention. All this put together came to about 84 billion as of today.
The good news is that we are able to net off all our domestic debt as of today. Every other debt that is hanging on us might have been cured by the previous administration before we took over.
An initiative of the Governors Forum, who decided that since the states are owing the federal government and vice versa, they should come together and reach an agreement for reconciliation, refund, or debt swap, the latter which the state government has opted for. Dofan Aga, AIT News, Makurdi.
Oh, that's Kakaki Business. I am Chioma Okolie, and Lai is here with sports updates. Tell us more about sports.
Good morning, Chioma.
Good morning.
Of course, we have a lot of on the package today. The Cup games that were held yesterday across Europe. Interesting matches from that one.
I'd love to see more of it.
All right then.
Thank you.
Hello there and welcome to the Sports Center on Kakaki, the African Voice, the midweek edition of the program. Now let's start off with the English Premier League. Now the English Premier League has blazed the trail among top European football leagues on the plight of Muslim players during this month of Ramadan. The Premier League permitted clubs to request for a stoppage before a game, which the referee will oblige during the match to allow players who had been fasting to take on energy supplements. Teams and match officials will discuss beforehand whether a pause is required and an approximate time for the stoppage will be agreed. However, that is not the case in France, as the Football Federation has mandated referees not to pause matches to allow Muslim players to break their fast. In an email to officials, the French Football Federation said football does not take into account the political, religious, ideological or syndical considerations of its actors. Now, some players have been missing matches in the French league because they do not want to compromise on fasting, which is an obligation for them as Muslims. Non-defender Jokwem Adjama, who was absent for his side in their 3-0 defeat by Reims on Sunday, he may likely miss today's game. That's in the Copa de France semi-finals fixture against Lyon. All right, before we go into the details of major leagues across Europe, let's take a look at the results of rescheduled matches in the English Premier League yesterday. All right, Bournemouth lost to Brighton 2-0. Leeds United got the better of Nottingham Forest 2-1 in that one, and Leicester City, after sacking their manager, they were not able to muster any result against Aston Villa. Aston Villa cruising home with a 2-1 win in that one. And Chelsea and Liverpool, Chelsea also sacked their coach. They have interim manager in charge of the team at the moment. They played a barren draw with Liverpool. It will be the turn of Manchester United. Later today, Manchester United versus Brentford, and West Ham will take on Newcastle. Newcastle, they are the surprise team of the season. They are cruising home and they're already third on the log, hoping to take one of those spots in the UEFA Champions League. Now, talking about cup matches, Spanish football giant Barcelona and Real Madrid will go toe-to-toe today in the Copa del Rey semi-final second leg. Barca have the advantage going into that encounter. They defeated Real by a lone goal at the Bernabeu in the first leg. Barca coach Xavi Hernandez, during the pre-match press conference, said that Real are the favourites despite his team's advantage, while his Real counterpart Ancelotti admitted that it will be too dangerous to go all out against the Catalans. So that's how it is in that particular one. The winner of that encounter will face Osasuna, who got the better of Athletic Bilbao 2-1 on aggregate. They played 1-1 in their fixture. All right, in the Coppa Italia, the first leg of semi-final between Juventus and Inter Milan ended in the most bizarre manner yesterday. 3 players were sent off in stoppage time, including the 2 scorers in the 1-1 draw. Romelu Lukaku got a second yellow card for celebrating his goal in front of Juve fans, while Juan Cuadrado and Inter's keeper were shown straight red cards after players came face to face at the encounter. In that particular encounter, Cuadrado scored in the 83rd minute, while Romelu Lukaku scored in the 95th minute, and after that he celebrated in front of the Juventus fans, which caused some chaos in that particular match. Now, so let's talk about some cricket. I'll be having one very important person join me in the cricket to discuss cricket. I have joining me to discuss all of that the public relations officer of the Nigerian Cricket Federation, Musa Eyizoje, is here with me on the program today. Musa, welcome to the show this morning.
Thank you very much, Lai.
All right, Nigeria is on the world map. We're talking about cricket. The NCF has been hosting international competitions following the completion of the Twin Oval at the Moshood Abiola Stadium. Now, the country definitely has caught the eye of the international body that's talking about the International Cricket Council. Tell us more about what the ICC is doing with cricket in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. The first thing that gave the attention back to Nigeria from the ICC were the 5 key strategic pillars for development that the board engaged in, the new board led by President Uyi Akpata. And it centered around governance, it centered around partnerships, it centered around developing players and facility, and of course improving the game totally. So in the last 4 years, mostly in the last 1 year, these things have been put in place from a finance structure, a good governance structure, and of course, the effects of what we've been doing in terms of grassroots development through the elite cricket, women's cricket, and of course our age group tournaments. And because of these deliberate attempts, the ICC saw the things that Nigeria were doing, and they said, okay, for the next big thing in Africa, we have to beam our searchlight on Nigeria, because they have shown that they are ready to develop this game. And in recent times, they've appeared on the map for all the right reasons. In the senior boys, the under 19, the women's cricket, everything, they've appeared on the international stage, winning global awards as well. And so that has really made the ICC take a keen interest in Nigeria cricket.
All right, talking about the keen interest of the ICC in Nigeria cricket, Nigeria is supposed to engage, to introduce about 1 million new players into the game. How is this project going with the NCF?
Yeah, I talked about structure earlier on. The thing is, if you look at the demography of Nigeria, if you look at, we have 37 states, and we have the population. What the ICC has said is that give us 250,000. I said no, with the right structures in place, we can give you 1 million. And that structure is, we have our national development managers for the two, for North and South. We have 6 zonal managers who takes care of all the 6 zones, and of course we have the coaches that has been employed. Over 60 coaches employed by the federation specifically for grassroots development. So if you do the maths, if you give each coach at least in a year bring 50,000 or 25,000 players from your region, we'll be able to hit these numbers. And we've done it last year because the target was 100,000 and we were able to hit that target. So that is the structure we're going to deploy. And of course, we have also said we want the grant, a special intervention grant from ICC, to be able to push these things, because if you want 1 million new entrants into the game, it's going to cost money. And the ICC has seen the idea and they're ready to back the Nigeria Cricket Federation.
So how far has the project gone so far in terms of, what's the response like, what's the feedback? Are we seeing more players, much more players are getting much interested in the game?
Yes, I can tell you, last year you'll be shocked to know that Zamfara State was able to provide 25,000 new entrants into the game alone in Zamfara State. And if you look at Zamfara, remember, they are the first state to introduce Sharia laws in the country, and that restricts cricket, especially women's cricket. But 15,000 girls were introduced in Zamfara State alone. And not to talk about the other hubs, Lagos, Ibadan, Edo, Kaduna, that are already powerhouses in cricket. So Edo State was able to do about 20,000, the same thing with Kaduna State. And this year alone, we've already recorded about 25,000 entrants between January and now, regardless of all the other competitions. So, and a major focus, we've also realized that it's easier to catch the girl child into the game than even the boys, because their heads are usually turned towards the traditional sport. But the girls like something unique and nice. So we've always been able to do that.
Maybe that's what informed the annual Women's T20 invitation. And Nigeria broke the jinx against Rwanda. Recently, Nigeria defeated Rwanda at the weekend to emerge champions of that particular tournament. It was, everywhere in the ICC map. Tell us about it. How was Nigeria able to do it? We lost in the group stage by huge margin, but we narrowly won in the final. What happened?
The success of that tournament is a reflection of hard work over 365 days. And what you saw on display was like deja vu. That was the same scenario last year when Rwanda defeated Nigeria. We beat them in the last group game, and of course they came back and won the trophy. But this time, the Nigerian team went into the last group game trying to see the best from Rwanda, and of course in the trophy match,
like keeping the cards close to
exactly.
To your chest.
In the trophy match, they were shocked with the new tactics, and everything worked out fine. The preparation from the coaches, the drilling from the team, the federation, every single thing in terms of investment, trainings, and of course there was a new angle to it for instance, we've always done the same thing over and over again, but this time we decided to bring psychological motivation. We decided to bring a lot of other aspects. And I'm proud to say here that the effects from the endorsement or the appointment of the women's brand ambassador for cricket.
I wasn't going to let that slide, so I was going to bring that up. But okay, you can go ahead.
Yeah, it created a new atmosphere with the girls. I mean, Adora's presence in Lagos gave these girls a new reason to see that, okay, cricket, you can actually do this and enjoy yourself while doing it. And her presence inspired them a lot because she was there during final practice, she was there before the game, she talked to them and all of this, and they were happy being around. So going into that final game.
Okay, so let's just let Adora in this one. Adora, you were in Lagos, you saw the girls, do their best, and just like Izoje just said now, you played a part. Tell us, what was your role in that one?
I think, the 9-run win over, against Rwanda in Lagos was, I think it was tension pitch, because a day before, of course, in our group stage, the girls, didn't quite come out, tops. We had 99, they had 101. So the next day, I think there was a lot of motivation before the game. The president, I spoke to them and told them the category, what this game means for us. And I think most importantly, what I saw in the field was, calculated strategic engagement of the girls towards the middle of the game to the final. In the beginning, we had a bit of a weak, start in terms of our, Captain Blessing won the toss and elected to bat, and all of that. But going into the main game towards the final, I think everybody's breath was, including him, was held fever pitch till we
all right, Adora, we'll have much time to talk about cricket some other time. That will be it from the sports segment on Kakaki, the African Voice. But before you go, what's next on the radar for the Nigerian Cricket Federation?
In 10 days, we're having the National Under-17 Championship for boys and girls, and that is usually the pathway where these players that are in the national team is selected from. We had the zonal eliminations across 36 states, and now the national finals will be in Abuja on the 12th to 16th of this month.
On the 12th to 16th of April, the national finals of the under-17 and under-18 boys championship of cricket will be holding in Abuja. The twin oval, a beautiful edifice, if you may want to ask me. All right, that will be it on Kakaki Sports. Many thanks for watching. I am Lai Lawa. Back to the main anchors. Adora.
Barry, cricket female, will you join us soon?
Yeah, sure.
All right, maybe we'll just talk about that much later. Our social intervention is up next, to stay with us.
To get fit in 60 seconds with Jolly Phillips. Now everyone has 60 seconds in every day to spare. So if you're ready, let's go! Hello again, Jolly Phillips here. I hope you're ready for your 1-minute workout, because I am. Now, what are we doing? I love this one. It's fancy feet and the cross. So we're going 1, 2, 3, cross. Other side, 1, 2, 3, cross. You need to be fast with your feet, yes? Are we ready? Your time starts now. Come on, get your guard up. 1, 2, 3, ha. 1, 2, 3, ha. 1, 2, 3. Come on, jab, 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 cross. Jab, 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 cross. Get those feet moving. Come on. Don't get tired now. Have fun with this one. Woo! 1, 2, 3, ha! 1, 2, 3, ha! Get those punches out. Get those punches out. Fancy feet with the feet. Come on. Ha! 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 Get those legs moving. 25 seconds left. That's it. You've got this. You're dangerous. No one is gonna try you from this moment on. Come on. Push. Squeeze those abs so you can move and be lighter on your feet. Come on. Last 10 seconds. Let's go. Faster. Woo. Woo. That's it. And time. Who's the champ? Well done. I hope you had a great workout. Anyway, what I need you to do is to follow us on Instagram at Alpha Fitness Studios and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Alpha Fitness Studios, for free workout videos, free dance videos, sales and promos, and make sure you join us at the gym, Alpha Fitness Studios in Lekki Phase 1 next time you're in Lagos. So until the next time, bye-bye.
Hello, great people of Nigeria. Welcome to the Leadership Clinic. I'm on day 4 on how leaders think differently. And today I'll be focusing on getting leaders to actually think in pictures and the big picture. So leaders must think about the end of the idea, the end of the vision. Leaders must think about the future. And guess what? They think from now to the future and back to now. The ability of leaders to think in pictures and create certain circumstances that they want to happen in their lives, in their organizations, and within their communities is what actually make these leaders actually different. I recall a particular situation when Disneyland was being launched. A journalist asked the wife of the late founder of Disney World. He wished that the owner and founder saw today, like he wished that he was at the opening ceremony. And the woman laughed and simply said that her husband actually visited every part of the building, which means the husband saw and thought in the context of the future. Creators of a vision normally will see the ideas come to pass first in their minds before it eventually happens. Every leader that understands how to think in big pictures will really do great things. In fact, everything that you can think in your mind is actually everything that you can imagine that will happen. Leaders who understand these principles, leaders who understand thinking big, leaders who understand thinking in pictures, leaders who understand thinking future, leaders who understand thinking in real, what of it, thinking possibilities, end up generating possibilities. So possibility thinkers is what I call this type of leaders. Our country at this point in time will need a lot of possibility thinkers who would think in the context of what could be for our great nation, great people of Nigeria. You must remember, if a man doesn't have a purpose waking up, it becomes interesting.
Have you ever wondered why money is an issue in your marriage? Money is already a tricky issue of itself, but it multiplies 100-fold when you're married. You will have to merge your outlook on finance management, approach to spending, needs and wants with another person who grew up under different circumstances and teachings. Now, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to handling money matters within a relationship. Having a joint account may work for some, but not for others. And what percentage of the budget goes to the various expenses are decisions both of you need to arrive at. What do you need to do? Have a full disclosure of each other's financial status. Create a budget and monitor it and talk with each other when planning to spend a big sum of money. Deciding what amounts to be spent on school fees and the children. Never leave the burden to your spouse or take up sole responsibility. I'll tell you why. Most times when you do too often, the other person or your spouse takes it for granted by saying you're always capable, so deal with it. Talk about it, share, and be considerate. Honestly, that's my 2 kobo.
Well, thank you for staying with us. It's now time for us to bring you the newspaper review, and we're starting this morning first with the papers, just as we allow reviewers to settle in. But of course, you know that we'll be having Yubusa Owachere and Iwo here with us, Akerega. And yes, a lot has happened in Delta State. I'm sure you'll be bringing us up to speed with that later. But let's begin with Daybreak. It's treason. Lai Mohammed accuses Peter Obi Dati Ahmed of trying to cause insurrection in Nigeria, says Nigeria democracy would not end if President-elect Bola Tinubu is sworn in on May 29th. Insists there was no pathway for either Obi or Atiku to have won the election, and that's coming up page 7. APC refused suspending Omo Agege, and that's on page 7. MC Oluomo has no immunity, sue him, and that's coming from Daybreak.
The Nigerian pilot still lives with the treason story. This is treason. Federal government accuses Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi of treason. The MC Oluomo story is also below, but we also have from the Nigerian Human Rights Commission, 88 died in 2023 elections, over 450 rights violation petitions received.
And Daily Assets, the federal government accuses Peter Obi Dati Ahmed of treason. Labour Party cautions minister over allegation, but bottom page, Gobari Run PDP wants Adamawa Rec to excuse himself. Group canvasses peaceful supplementary poll, and government kidnapped 10 secondary school students in Kaduna State.
Leadership is leading with the story. 54 days to inauguration. Tinubu headhunts best brains competence for appointments. Sanusi, Gbajabia, Mila, Lake, El Rufai, Akume shortlisted. Fayemi, Fashola, Adeyeye may be considered. We also have
some other stories. An interesting lineup and people. Well, this Nigeria looks at alert treason. I think a lot of stories will be running on this dimension across the front dailies. But here we have, you have committed treason, says federal government. Your claims are malicious, fictitious. Ex-Anambra governor replies, minister. And then you also want to look at INEC urges parties to inspect election materials in local government areas. Senate orders NCRC PPE to reverse 700 MWs in Geru power plant concessioning.
National Star. From Sam Amadi, INEC deliberately rigged the 2023 general elections. We also have from the World Health Organization, page 2 of the National Star, saying infertility affects 1 in 6 people worldwide.
That story pulled down and reloaded results 3 times, coming from Sam Amadi. Then the authority says 2023 presidential poll, Obi's claims, actions reasonable. Lai Mohammed. Let's also look at that bottom page story. NCC denies tracking, leaking Obi Adeboye phone conversation on page 2.
Historic hearing, first news. Trump arrested, arraigned over criminal charges. We also have from the Adamawa governorship we run, PDP telling the INEC, sack rec now.
And police, People's Daily is looking at that story. Reps condemn call for interim government, urge security agencies to be alive to duty. Leading with that story from DHQ, no calls for alarm over presence of UN fighting equipment.
Nigerian Tribune. Page 27 of the newspaper, Buhari orders Nasini boss to vacate office. Another interesting story there is National Assembly presiding officers, APC governors meet today.
Blueprint is looking at federal government to be you are inciting citizens committing treason. And another story there you want to look at is bottom page, fuel subsidy, Naira redesign pose danger to Nigeria's economy, amongst other stories.
The Guardian. Federal government Obi trades allegations on treason charge. We also have the Nigerians' capital inflow buckles under rising risks, monetary tightening.
And yes, indeed, you can still see the parade. That front page still talks about Obi kicks, this time from Obi's point of view, as federal government accuses a LP presidential candidate running mate of treason. And you also want to look just above that story on Osibajo raises hope of Africa becoming festrally green civilization.
Daily Trust, still riding with the headlines very visible in the dailies this morning. 2023 polls, federal government accuses Obi Dati of treason. Inflation erodes minimum wage by 41% in 3 years. That's on the top corner of the Daily Trust newspaper.
The Nigerian News Direct looks still at the Peter Obi's leaked audio conversation. I saw that in the other paper. But this time, alleged treason charge, federal government LP fight over Peter Obi's leaked audio conversation. LP debunks allegation, says Obi abiding peaceful. I never discussed or encouraged anyone to undermine Nigeria. Obi reacts, I neither confirmed nor admitted leaked conversation. Spokesperson.
Standard Times still leads with the story around the presidential elections, drawing inferences as the federal government accuses Obi Dati of treason. Labour Party candidate refutes allegation. We also have Beavers was overrated. It deceived me. That's coming from Ekweazu.
Well, that's an interesting route. That someone will say because you lost. Well, another person will argue differently. Let me bring you in here. There's a lot of stories, but I think the one that rules overall is the story on the LP being accused of treason. How do you respond to this?
Yeah, I can see that virtually all the papers lead with the story today. But for me, I think that's the most useless and ridiculous stories, coming from Lai Mohammed. Like we say in the media sector, the source is a message, and once the source is discredited, it is difficult to believe the message. I read Lai Mohammed accusation against Peter Obi, and when I read that statement yesterday, I tried to do a thorough check about what Peter Obi has said, maybe since after the general elections that Lai Mohammed was referring to. And I couldn't find any incitement, a statement that amounts to incitement coming from Peter Obi. I did a thorough check. So I'm confused to some extent. The kind of statement that Obi made that Lai Mohammed is referring to. I'm aware that even after the election, when the Nigerians were very angry, agitating over the outcome of that election, Obi issued a statement almost 3 times, asking people to calm down and that he would take the legal process in challenging the outcome of that elections. Even when they were pressured on him from his supporters across the country for a protest, Obi said he was not going to go along that route and that he was going to follow the legal process. And eventually he filed his papers in court. So I'm at lost the kind of statement that Obi made that Lai Mohammed is referring to. Well, I can understand the one made by Dati a few days ago that is generating a lot of controversy, even leading to NBC sanctioning the channel's televisions with 5 million naira and all that. But for Lai Mohammed to be accusing Obi of treasons, for God's sake, I don't even know. You see, the truth of the matter is that Lai Mohammed is used to this kind of thing. He travel abroad, spending millions of Nigerian taxpayers' money for engagement with the media out there. The truth of the matter is that even the foreign media are more informed about what is happening in Nigeria. So what is he doing there? What news is he going to tell them about the outcome of the general elections? Nigerians are aware of what happened. The international community is aware of what happened. So there's something new. But I think it is a deliberate attempt on the part of, the way I see it, people might disagree. I think it's a deliberate attempt on the part of the APC-led government, to discredit the ongoing move by the Labour Party and Peter Obi to challenge the outcome of the elections in court. But I just hope the international communities will be aware of that, and Nigerians are also aware of that. Like I said, Lai Mohammed is a very discredited source, so nobody take him serious. I don't take him serious.
Okay, so but what we should take serious right now is one of the headlines on the newspaper this morning that has to do with our president-elect going to shop for best hands, to be a part of his first 11 as we count down to May 29. A lot of Nigerians will be looking at the 3 C's: competency, character, and capacity, to see how these values would drive, being part as lieutenants for President-elect Tinubu. For you, for example, how do you think that the new cabinet for the president-elect should look like?
Okay, I will respond to that, but let me just quickly add a few comments to what Yobosa said about the macabre dance of shame that the Minister of Information has taken to the international stage. It's such a big shame that anytime we want to speak on critical national issues, agents, privies, subjects of the federal government will travel to the United States, invite the Washington Post, the New York Times, and a few newspapers in the U.S., and then claim to be making statements that will affect the lives of Nigerians. Well, the Buhari administration is at the twilight of its exit, and as Yobosa said, the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, has left a legacy of ignominy with profound respect. You know, I do not think anybody takes him seriously anymore. He ended up being one of the problems of this administration. He spent the last 8 years fighting the media, trying to develop and design anti-media policies, using the broadcasting organization to try and stifle the media. He mobilized senators, House of Reps members who are in the APC, you know, to try and come up with a legal framework like the social media bill and things like that to try and curtail the media. So for me, I do not think that Lai Mohammed has been a friend, has been an advocate of the progressive tendency of a new Nigeria. I don't think he believes in
Diego, do you think that people would, just before you come to Perry's question, that even the fact that Lai Mohammed comes out to say that they are suspecting or accusing Peter Obi of treason also incites Nigerians to reactions that are not also peace enablers?
Now, look, again, as Yobosa said, what is really the content? What is treasonable? Okay, we've heard that leaked tape. Peter Obi is calling Bishop David Oyedepo daddy and things. Those are so elemental issues, very consequential matters. Yes, the man has a right to call, he's a Christian. Are we saying that people who are Muslim do not call Muslim clerics and all that, either for advice or, you know, everybody was seeking votes ahead of the elections, and if he's asking the cleric, look, help me speak to, you know, in fact, Peter Obi started his presidential campaign from the north, if we recall very well. He visited many Muslim leaders in the north and all that, and nobody saw anything wrong with that, but because he made a phone call to Bishop Oyedepo, that becomes, I do not even know why why editors. When I was an editor, I won't put that story on the front page of my paper. That is the truth. I won't encourage it. There's no content. There's just no content. It is like all motion and no movement. It is a strategy to distract Nigerians from the main issues of the alleged electoral fraud, because these matters are before the court. You know, what proponents of the APC are telling Nigerians, Bola Ahmed Tinubu lost Lagos, the chairman of the APC lost in Nasarawa, and so that can be a basis for saying the election is fair. Very infantile argument. You know, they should go to court to argue these things. The tribunals are there to adjudicate. I do not think that this entire frenzy around treason, are they trying to set Peter Obi up for treason trial? It can't hold, it can't fly, and that is the truth. Nigerians know who they voted for. There's a president-elect. Yes, the court will validate his election, but they should just leave that. We have three chairs of government. We have the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. The whole legal process has now moved to the judiciary. The judiciary should be allowed to do its work. Now to the all-important question of what leadership is reported this morning with the photographs of Sanusi, being proposed maybe to come back to the CBN. The current Speaker of the House of Reps, Gbajabiamila Mila, being touted as Chief of Staff, Dele Alake, Rufai. Now, I have, before now, if I listen to the president-elect correctly, he said he was going to inject young people in the government. He was going to get the best brain, inject young people. He was going to unify Nigeria. You know, he acknowledged the fact that there is now a big divide across ethnic and religious lines. Now, if you look at all the names that have been faces there, I feel very ashamed. If this is what they call the best brains, with profound respect to some of them there, you know, in their own right, these are very intelligent people and all that. But if you also look at the names of the people there, these are people that have been in government all along. You know, and by the last voting pattern, the voting demographics, what happened? Nigerians have rejected these people. People are not interested in these old faces who could not deliver on security, could not deliver on seamless supply of petroleum products, could not deliver on electricity. Fashola himself is Minister of Works and Transport. The roads are in a mess. He was governor of Lagos State. He did fairly well in Lagos. But since he became a minister, for me, as I know him, this is not the Fashola that I know. And it's just like you come into Abuja, a strange devil appears to overwhelm these individuals. So if these are the people, the individuals that the president-elect is hoping to drive progressive government, his administration, Nigerians should prepare for a shock.
And again, you know, somebody would say it's instant absurdity.
They're not inspiring at all.
Instant absurdity. You look at all the names and the faces, and there's no one female, considering the fact that we have a decline
that is
in the parliament,
issue.
and you are in a list of men. Even though we expect that even the first 4 personalities should have at least one woman to show a sense of inclusion. Please.
But I think we should not worry about the leadership report. It is just a mere speculation. It is only when the president now sent the list to the National Assembly for recommendations that we'll now begin to look at it.
Absolutely.
But I think for now, I think we should not worry about these speculations. But I'm aware that the speaker's name is being all around that. He's even started acting as the chief of staff. He's been with the president in US and all that, and you have all the names there. But like he goes, the truth of the matter is that if we are to go by the list published by the leadership today, now to be, I mean, it means that Nigerians are out for a very big trouble. Let's look at some of them. Find me with all due respect, very, very intellectual person, but he was a governor in Ekiti State for 8 years, first 4 years and the last 4 years. Tell me what he has achieved in Ekiti State. So what is he bringing on? What is he bringing on board as a minister or whatever responsibility you want to give to him? Look at Erifai, who was governor of Kaduna for 8 years. And I can tell you that a number of people that were killed in Kaduna under his jurisdictions. In Kaduna. So people could not provide leadership. People could not provide basic things for the people at the various state. So you are importing them to come to the federal, to the federal level to do what? The Minister of Works, Fashola, has been a minister for the past 8 years. Super minister. Like Hugo said, the roads are bad. So what are they bringing on board? Look at the former governor of Benue State. So I think we should not, like I said, we should not worry about this list. By the time the president presents the links to the public and to the National Assembly, they can now start talking about that. So but I think, for me, if these are the lists that the president is coming up with, then it should be better. Okay, so now
let's consider this water over our shoulders, but let's go to the issue of, I know there's a paper that talked about the National Assembly speaking, sternly on the issue of interim government and issues surrounding that, and one of the things they have said to the agencies is to make sure that they come into play to make sure that those issues are sorted out. But you look at that story, and maybe while we're at it because of time, you also look at the fact that the APC governors are meeting today, on principal officers and how that distribution will work at the National Assembly.
Well, like I keep on saying, the issue of National Assembly, the issue of interim government is not known to our constitutions. So whoever is thinking about that, better bear it. We've witnessed that before under the military regime, and we also how it ended. Yes, people who are pushing that I understand their frustration. Maybe they were frustrated by the outcome of the election. And many of them believe that this present government lacked legitimacy. So why would they worry about getting the president who lacked legitimacy to govern Nigeria in the next 4 years? So I understand their frustrations. But my own take is that the interim government is not known to our constitution. It is illegal and nobody should talk about it. I think we should not dismiss that. is illegal. It will amount to a coup when you now say you want to set up an interim government. When election has taken place and the outcome of that election is being contested in the court of law. So let us wait for the outcome of that judicial process. As for the National Assembly governor meeting over the House, the House of the Speaker and all that, but it's part of the process. When elections have been conducted, people are struggling or lobbying for one position or the other, and they want to talk about which state will get the speaker, which zone will get the Senate president. So it is normal within the politics. And I hope that the National Assembly members will also be allowed to determine who should be their leaders. We've seen in the past where leadership, of different leadership were imposed on the National Assembly, the Senate, and the House of Reps. And it resulted to, almost fighting almost on a daily basis. So this time around, I'm encouraged by the statement by Tinubu saying that he's neutral, but that is for publication. The Tinubu I know is the highly, politically conscious president who witnessed in this country. So I'm sure he will be everywhere to determine who gets what and all that. That's what politics is about. Political patronage. Once election is over, people determine who gets what. And Tinubu is very politically conscious. That I know. So forget about the fact that he is neutral. He will be interested, even who gets what, in every department of our country. So the politics is on, and we will wait for the outcome of the results.
Another thing that takes our interest right now on the dailies is some of the economic decisions that are taken. One that is closely related to it is the fact that, according to KPMG, for example, there's a report that says that the unemployment rate would do a little over 40%. How would you react to this development?
Well, the KPMG report is something that's already familiar. Nigerians know Nigerians are not employed. The biggest industry in Nigeria now is government and politics. There are no industries in the last 24 years of seamless democracy. I have not seen deliberate government strategy to attract foreign direct investment. Rather, the remnants of foreign companies that we have in Nigeria, Dunlop, Michelin, many of them has divested from Nigeria, moved to neighboring countries, Ghana and all of that. You see, all of these are issues that I think that government officials should be addressing, rather than going to talk about Peter Obi, treasonable, this and that, all those kind of rubbish that that agitates the minds of Nigeria, Nigerians. So for me, that report is very valid. Currently, I think the unemployment figures are standing at about well above 35%. That is the truth. And of course, there is no effort to generate or to induce policies that will create employment. And then, of course, we're also having a lot of our young people graduating from the universities. So the planning, by May, there will be a national census. The census is supposed to aggregate the population demographics, male, female, young people and all that, break them into the different demographics for the purposes of national planning. But all of these, for me, I just look at them as academic exercises to further steal public funds. Knowing how many we are as Nigerians have never helped any planning. What the government, successive government do, basically is to push yearly budgets, and at the end of the day, the figures, the monies allocated for capital projects are overbloated, stolen, put in private pockets, and used to acquire private jets, private properties. That's where we are. Nigerians are really interested in their country, in taking back their country, and that was expressly demonstrated in the last election. Going forward, really, we cannot continue in this dancing in a circle that we are doing, and people just thinking that Nigerians are fools. The entire neoliberal politics, the neoliberal global capitalist market that Nigeria is promoting, without even putting in place the necessary domestic infrastructure to support internal growth, is a huge problem. Look at the after that Nigeria signed on to. South Africa, other countries, Egypt, Tunisia, and all of that are putting the necessary infrastructures in place to take advantage of the production processes that will create employment, that will, generate employment. Peter Obi, for example, talks about moving Nigeria away from consumption to production. That is the kind of rhetoric, the kind of conversation that people should be interested in, and not cooking up, trying to create a convolution of people, getting involved in treason and all of that. I listened to the Chief of Army Staff, I think yesterday or thereabout, while reacting to insecurity in the country, and he was focusing so much on the Southeast, talking about ESN, IPOB, and all of that. We've never seen IPOB blocking the highways anywhere in the country to kidnap people for ransom. I don't know why there's so much focus. So that is why there is suspicion that there is a possibility that there's an Igbophobia mentality, in the center of government. Why is there so much focus on the Igbo? If people don't want the Igbos in this country, we can go into a referendum so that people can choose. It's a federation, so that people can choose where they want to belong. People are free to contest elections anywhere they are in this country. But when there appears to be a deliberate effort to ensconce some people, to remove them from the center of politics and government, for me, I feel very concerned.
It's important you're saying this because if you look at the lead story from the National Star, INEC deliberately rigged the 2023 election story coming from Sam Amadi, where he mentioned that the election, the portals pulled down and re-uploaded results 3 times. Commission dismantled all election safeguards, says only committed judiciary can restructure Nigeria's democracy, talking about this and some of the things you've raised. But this thing he says, I mean, it's been reiterated in several quarters without maybe perhaps highlighting these areas. But how do you seemingly think that this is the norm that has created tension for people to begin to demand for, let's say, quote-unquote, interim government?
Yes, you also talked about it. He dwelt extensively on the interim government issue. For me, I think where is it coming from? Who started who started the conversation around interim government? It is these same people in government. They are just trying to distract Nigerians from the criminal conduct of the 2023 general elections. What happened in the 2023 general election is criminal. It's absolutely criminal. It is now within the purview of the tribunals and the court to determine that. But Nigerians cannot be taken for granted. Having conducted a general Mamadi this morning, as reported in National Star, that beyond even the interrogation of the entire electoral process by the courts and the tribunal, a serious country that wants to build national cohesion should have set up a commission by now to review the entire electoral process. And of course, look at the role played by the INEC chairman himself and somebody who was alleged to be a former employee of the APC president-elect in Lagos State. Maybe he was a commissioner or something, who served in Lagos State, who then headed the ICT department in INEC. These are issues that need satisfactory public clarification so that everybody will be happy. When you do an election, at the end of the day, why is it that this election has ended up being the most contested general election in the history of this country? From the state houses of assembly, the governorship election, to the presidential elections, where all the presidential candidates, almost all of them, are challenging the outcome. So it is an entire mess. So when you go to New York and address press conference, and you are a leading presidential candidate, you are now saying, oh, is because he made a phone call, he's involved in treason. Publish the exact content of the treasonable comment that Peter Obi made, so that Nigerians can come to a fair conclusion if this man indeed was.
And just to finally, say that this election is the most controversial election I've ever seen in the history of our politics. As at the last time, we have over 506 or 2 or 3, cases at the tribunal emanating from the presidentials and the National Assembly elections. So it shows that a lot of people are gradually, dissatisfied with the outcome of that elections.
All right.
And that is why a lot of them are contesting the outcome
All
of the
right.
elections at the tribunal. So it's the most controversial, it's the most discredited elections I've ever witnessed in this country.
All right.
And I hope the judiciary will be alive to its responsibility in determining the outcome of these elections,
All right.
rather than looking at the
All right.
technicalities and all that.
All right, okay. Perhaps that's why we're talking about our first interview, looking around that area. But first, we want to say thank you to our guests for joining us this morning. Iyobosa and Igor Karaka has been with us this morning, bringing insights. And, well, Iyobosa says it's the most controversial election in the history of Nigeria.
Absolutely.
And Igor agrees to that, absolutely.
It's time for our first interview on Kakaki today. We'll take a quick break and then we'll return to continue. Please stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. We told you earlier we'll be looking at the Presidential Election Tribunal and the agitation for speedy consideration by the Court of Appeal to give Supreme Court the sufficient time to conclude before 29 May. And we have an election analyst, Austin Naibwe, and a lawyer, Maxwell Okpara, to join us already in the studio to do justice to this. Barry?
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us.
My pleasure.
The focus right now is on the speedy dispensation of justice, but we can take a peep into the Constitution, for example, to serve as a guiding compass. So Section 288 of the Constitution and also the Electoral Act stipulates that elections in Nigeria, including petitions, of course, are governed by the elections. This, of course, means that within 21 days, it is expected that the announcements of those the results should be also made public. This, of course, also is related to the fact that the Election Tribunal shall deliver its judgment in writing within 180 days from the date of filing petitions. For a lot of Nigerians, for example, the idea is all this, particularly the 180 days and a whole lot around it, is one that has caused for a source of worry, and they want this thing speedily done. Closely also related to it is that after that, any resulting appeal must be heard, and a decision also has to be made 60 days from the delivery of the first verdict. If we take this and just oppose it with the speedy dispensation of justice, what do you think can be done to ensure that we put our legs on the pedal and we get less time, in the adjudication of these issues? I'd like our lawyer to react to this.
Okay, just like the learned sec Olusabakawa SN said a few days ago that all elections, presidential election tribunal from Court of Appeal, which is the Court of First Instance, to Supreme Court, can be dealt with and concluded before swearing in. I agreed with him to an extent. I also disagree with him to an extent. You see, there are many factors by which the tribunal can affect the speedy dispensation of this particular trial. One, the number of petitions coming to the tribunal. Two, the conduct of the council and the parties. Then three, the disposition and conduct of the panel itself. Now, it's a constitutional requirement that they have 180 days, that is on a trial court, in this instance, Presidential Court of Appeal, that has a originating jurisdiction, and the Supreme Court, that is 60 days, that has appellate jurisdiction with respect to the president. Now, when you add it up, it's 240 days, which is about 8 months. Now, that is the maximum. That does not mean that the matter cannot be had and dealt with under a month, under 2 months. It depends on the factors which I just enumerated. Now, going forward, the pre-election practice direction issued by the President Court of Appeal, both for pre-election and post-election, also gave the panel the power to abridge sometimes. But I was using arbitration procedure as a guide, that if the panel can adopt that, they can deliver judgment under 1 week. What does that mean? There are preliminary matters that need to be discussed with, jettisoned with, before going into the main trial. So when you discover that this particular issue has been resolved at the preliminary stage, then they now focus on the main issues. So why that cannot happen in election tribunal is that the parties with their witnesses must be heard. The evidence they want to tender must be evaluated. For unlike in arbitration, during preliminary stage, there are some issues that must be dealt with and do away with. But on this particular issue, the first shadow of Electoral Act made provision for electoral issues that needed to be dealt with before going, which is the one that is going now, filing, filling the pre-trial forms and what have you. So it depends. But on my own, the panel, who are Nigerians, living Nigerians, should understand that the expectations is very high and the tension is high. If you watch, we have been having election tribunal since 1999, but this particular one, the Okada man is analyzing this issue. The Mebaru is analyzing this issue.
He's a Nigerian?
Yes, unlike before. Somebody will now tell you that, Barrister, this 25% they are talking about, he's talking about and Abuja now. I hear them saying, everybody is interested. So, and they are saying that the issue of this interim government, we have not had it before. We never had it in 1999, in 2003, in 2007, 2011, 2015, 2019. We are hearing it now. Why? Because people believe that the person we elected was not declared. It shows in the atmosphere after the declaration. The youths believe that our efforts in getting back Nigeria has been thwarted. So that is why they have left INEC, they have left the presidency, they are now in judicial arena. So everybody is looking at. So, and some people are now saying that, except we are not ready to tell ourselves the truth. I say that if we allow them to swear this person in, he will use his power to, although a lot of issues. So that's why people are calling that let them finish so that, you know what I'm saying? So I think the tribunal should look at it, because I know that out of the 18 presidential candidates, up to 6 file election petition. And if you watch, it's only one panel, the same panel.
Okay, let me come to Austin, because one of the things, I mean, this clearly spells out is that we're depending on the judiciary to sustain our democracy and our peace. And some people would say that's rather unfortunate. However, if you look at some of the statements by the Leonard Sirleaf, one thing he did say was, and I quote him, "The speed proposed here requires a radical departure from our present judicial policy, where case management plays a very limited role in judicial outcomes." And I mean, it's very clear. So speed, outcome versus believability. How do you respond to this?
Well, I'd like to start by saying that I do agree with the Leonard from the beginning to the end, because of the momentum and the focus. Like Barrister has said, the interest in the 2023 general election in the history of Nigeria is monumental. We've never had this kind of euphoria about an election, not just in Nigeria. As I speak to you now, friends from Liberia and Sierra Leone who are having upcoming election are asking me what's happening in Nigeria, because it is a signal that has put over to those elections. For folks in Ghana, whose election is coming up the year after, in Senegal, they're asking that Nigeria has set what they classify as a wrong pedestal in the West African region. Whereas Nigeria was supposed to set a path for the progress of the continent and, of course, the global community. Now, this is what I think should happen and do flow with the Leonard. And this is what the Leonard did before the election. There's a particular case in question, which is 25%, section 314 of the Constitution. 25%. What does it mean? Abakuba has written to INEC to clarify before the election. This is someone with foresight. He knew that based on the conversation that were ongoing, that the election was not going to be concluded on the first ballot, he may run into, for the first time in the history of our country, a second ballot, that we need to begin to interrogate ahead of time. He wrote to INEC and specifically demanding an interpretation. What would INEC would have done at that time was to quickly seek the Supreme Court interpretation and then make public. All of this to euphoria about 25%, whether you have to win, whether you have to have 25% in Abuja, would have been nullified before the election. But no comment, no commentaries. We all had our say publicly, including some of us who are political analysts, some of us who believe that English language is what is in the Constitution, or lawyers who believe that 25% does not mean anything, Abuja is a state. We could have dealt with this. That is one. I'm not sure you need weakness in that process. You don't need weakness to testify whether 25% is Abuja. Abuja is a state that needed 25% to be won or not. You don't need weakness. Deal with that issue, because that's a fundamental issue on the table. A second one, of course, is the drug issues and the American thing that they brought in, which also trended before the election. There was a fake news at that time, if you remember, that INEC has released a press statement. Actually, I can't remember the content of the press statement, but in summary, the statement was that INEC is investigating the U.S. proceedings and INEC will take action, and that was not true. These two issues, maybe for the drug issue, you could I don't even think you need witness. Maybe the witness will be an American court to say, can you come and testify that this actually happened? Otherwise, is it okay that the man, because I heard Festus Okoye, I heard various fashion of the cases, not Festus Okoye, Festus Keyamo, all of them making commentaries on the drug issue. And what Keyamo has said is that no, it did not forfeit, there was no case. Is there actually a case? So if there's a case, let's interrogate that there was a case and the forfeiture was based on the case, and you go on social media, you are all manner. The court, the Nigerian court, is the one that will make a final statement that will put these particular two to rest. If we do that, the issue of interim government, the president return did not meet up the threshold of the constitution, would have been laid permanently, would have been killed. Then we'll not focus on whether you want Imo or you want Rivers, where were the results from there, because those are more technical. You must prove your case beyond reasonable doubt at the polling unit. So you must justify that in polling unit 1 in Ohada local government area of Rivers State, I scored this vote, whereas this is the vote that came up. Then you cannot begin to pick them up one by one. But the issue in the public space, the court of public opinion, is not Rivers Imo results. It's not Adamawa result. It's not polling unit in anywhere. It is section 134 and the drug case. It seems to be like the biggest of the case. That case can easily be trashed without wasting time. Again, based on pace, I know our judicial system is a challenge. We drag out, and that is why there had to be that 180 days. And you remember, the 180 days was imposed, that you cannot go beyond 180 days. Before now, previously in 2017 and 2007, you saw how Oshomele's case went far in the case. So you see, the government, you are late, and 2 years after you are still in the tribunal, you're almost running up your elections. So the 180 days is actually an improvement. It's an improvement on previous jurisprudence. But they need to be, like Abokoba has said, let's radically depart. It's a radical departure. The word radical means swift. The word radical means that, yes, we know the norm.
Instant.
We know the norm. The norm we allow you this 180 days. The norm, the provision of 180 days did not say that was the minimum. That is a mass. So you can actually do it in 1 week. And I think that the judiciary, with all the commentaries coming from within and outside of Nigeria, should do the needful. And for me, I have a proposal beyond just this. I think, too, people are also agitating for live telecast of the proceedings of the court. People want to know what was submitted, the argument. They want to know. The judiciary, as of this material time, must begin to think of quelling the tension in the nation by providing a transparent judicial process, particularly in the presidential election. Not necessarily because, I mean, you're going to go to all of the states. We may not have all of the lawsuits.
All right,
to cover all the states.
Also, let me just come in here quickly. We'll definitely continue on this toga of conversation, and we'll be right back after the short break. Thank you for staying with us. That's just to remind you that on Friday we'll be having the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Olisa Abakoba, joining us at 7:20 on Kakaki for this conversation that we are having around. But in the meantime, Austin, please do continue.
So what I'm saying is that even though we cannot break this radical departure, that we may still go with the 180 days. Can you show that everyone, locally and internationally, can focus? I was in this country observing the Kenyan election, not the election itself, the judicial processes. I was here. I watched all of the processes. It was as if, how can we, if Kenya, I mean, we talk about Kenya as a country, but there's no comparison in terms of the popularity. This is the largest democracy, for Christ's sake. This is a democracy that should show the path for all other countries, particularly in Africa, to follow. Kenya, live transmission on YouTube everywhere. It doesn't need to be on AIT because it costs much. YouTube, go on, it's just internet you need. Show us live what is happening, the proceedings. Show us live. The judiciary can have its own, just one camera in the room, and then give it to everybody. You don't have to have 200 cameras in that room. Transmit it out, all of the stations, AIT, or everybody takes feed from there, and then they show it and broadcast it to the world. We need to see how the process is going. We need to see how the matter of 25% will be resolved. Many people, including myself before the election, I also make commentaries about 25%. That for me, if you have 5 credit in your WAEC, if the JAM says that a matriculation board, university regulation says that you need 5 credit and English, what's called 7 credit? Without English, there's no admission. That's English language. But the lawyers will have their interpretation clause and begin to have those interrogations. And the other agreement is that when you say state, in this city, March 18th, we're working everywhere. All the states were shut down.
All right, let me come to Barrister Maxwell. I mean, the speed of justice is a mantra that our judiciary must proclaim very loudly, and that's in the voice of Leonard Silk. But then perhaps a little clarity, because when he said the arbitrary tribunal will deliver what is called a partial final award, what exactly is that?
You know, I'm an arbitrator. See, in arbitration, there are some issues that you needed to trash out, just like what he said. If you watch what Polisabakoba SN was saying, there are some issues that you need to trash out on that stage of that pre-trial. The issue of double nomination, something like double nomination of the vice president. One, at the time you were appointed as, you are nominated as the vice president, we are still having another nomination ticket for another position. These are the issues. If that one has been established at that level, the issue of certificate. Did you forge a certificate? If he said no, here is the original. You confirm it at that preliminary stage. All those particular issues can be dealt with. There are some, you don't even need evidence. The evidence are there. So when you now trash it out, then you now, if the issues, the ones you raise has already disqualified the person, then there is no need of going into whether you win an election or you did not win. So that was the reason why, that's what Odisewaka was hammering. Instead of coming to waste the whole time talking about something that you can just close your eye and give interpretation. I'm talking about judiciary, just like this 25%. Whom do you want to take evidence from? Whether is it a constitution that you are having for you to interpret? You say this particular issue, no, the panel have sat, look at our position on it. The issue of a forged certificate, these people say that the one you presented is fake. You have original, you compare it, settle it. As at the time you take nomination, they say that you are still having another nomination, which is against the law. We have it there, you have established it in several districts. You settle those issues, then you now focus on. If we are able to resolve all those issues in favor of the person, then you now go into whether I win election or I did not win election. In fact, if you watch that, the issue of winning election, not winning election, even came last. So these are the issues that I believe the tribunal can take a clue from there. Remember that, because one, even that if you look at the number of petitions that are coming in and the way they are bringing it, you discover that that's 180 days. If you want to follow our own conventional way of trial, that 180 days will not be enough, because once you take any particular witness, a particular party may decide to take about 15 witnesses. Then another person, if there are less than 7 that filed the petition, and they produce, each of them have 20 witnesses. How are you going to do it? Even if you are sitting morning, afternoon, and night, you can still not meet up. So we are looking at the most peaceful way of resolving these issues, and also to bring the attention, because if you go out, Nigerians are much interested. I've been going to court. In fact, the last time I went to court, what I saw in that court of appeal, I couldn't believe it. I heard them say, people from Bayelsa, people from Adamawa, people from, I heard them say, they were saying a lot of comments. I witnessed that, I saw them. So you see people that are angry, people that are following what is happening. So I don't know how the are going to do it. So, and the better for them, the only thing that will happen to them is, the best thing that will happen to them is for them to make it open. Because if you just, the one who just say, we hereby give decision, a situation whereby somebody fourth, we are first, somebody who did not contest election, all those ones cannot stand though. I know what I'm saying. I'm a very strict guy. So the earlier we do it, the better for us. I think Odisabakaba has given them a leeway to do it, so that the tension, the expectation is high.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. We just hold your thoughts there. We would have you on the other side of the device, but right now, I'm standing by to give us this issue and, of course, a lot of other trendy issues on social media. Ms. Joanna with our segment, Kakaki Socials. Please stay with us.
Welcome. This is Kakaki Social. I'm Rena Obuzigi. Now, social media platforms on Tuesday went agog after the president of the federal government accused Peter Obi and his running mate Dati Baba Ahmed of treason. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, who spoke for the federal government, said the conclusion was made based on some of the comments, post-election comments made by Obi and Dati. In his words, he says, Obi and his vice, Dati Ahmed, cannot be threatening Nigerians that if the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress APC is sworn in on May 29, it will be the end of democracy in Nigeria. He continued to say that this is treason. You cannot be inviting insurrection, and this is what they are doing. Obi's statement is that of a desperate person. He is not a Democrat that he claimed to be. A Democrat should not believe in democracy only when he wins election. First reacting to that is Obi Ezekwesili, who says it is the height of sophistry, thoughtless talk and abuse of power for the Minister of Information and Culture to throw accusations of treason on political opponent who have taken the right judicial processes in contesting the result of an election. And she says, stop it. Onoja says, what treason, if I may ask, that he went to court to challenge the process that declared your candidate winner, or that he told his supporters to be calm and allow his legal team to reclaim his mandate through the judiciary, or you are referring to the purported audio tape? Quite a number of questions there. Victory says the federal government of Nigeria is accusing someone who never organized any protest for treason, while those who incite the public by their rhetorics are saints. Let it be known that the will of the citizens must prevail and not the will of the minute minority. Good Luck says the hatred on him is building up. Federal government, Unawa arrest Obi, come out with your full chest and tell us if you have the balls. Wahala deo. Oh well, Obi has also reacted after it took like 3 days of social media, and he says that it is most unfortunate that these consistent efforts to portray me quite contrary to what I am and my core values is coming from such high quarters. Minister Lai Mohammed accusing me of stoking insurrection is totally malicious and fictitious. He continued to say that I have never discussed or encouraged anyone to undermine the Nigerian state. I have never sponsored or preached any action against the Nigerian state. Those initiating these actions have increasingly used their official positions and agent to make false allegations against me. Peter Obi is saying that I am on record, as always, advocating for peace and issue-based campaign and never campaigned based on ethnicity or religion. I am committed to due process and presently seeking redress in the court. So he's advising that those engaged in this demarketing process to stop presenting Nigeria in such bad light. Our future generations deserve a new Nigeria where they can live a secure and decent life like their counterparts in other climes. It is possible. Signed by people. So a chieftain of the APC, Joe Igbokwe, is also saying that he heard with one of his ears that another unbelievable telephone conversation is coming. That is as he posted on Facebook. Now, you may want to say it's a letter without an address, right? But then if he says another, then your guess is as good as mine. After decorating Peter Obi as the hero of the February 25 presidential election, the Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has also presented the winner's trophy to his mate in Benue State, Samuel Otom, regardless of his loss. So for Wike, choosing the emergence of a Southern president over his senatorial bid is why history will be kind to Otom.
Let me thank you for standing firm. Yes, you still firm that presidency should go to the South. Yes, you paid for it. But history will be with you on your side. That when the time came for people to stand up, for Nigeria to be united, for Nigeria to be one, for Nigeria to move as a country, you came out and said, look, yes, I'm from this zone. Yes, for equity and fairness and justice. It will be for the future of this country if the presidency goes to the South. My brother, we want to thank you. We want to appreciate you. We will be wherever you are. will give me any support that you require from Rivers State. You are our brother.
Let's have some reactions to that. From Steve is saying that this is how Wike wind Otom and Ikpeazu into political obscurity. Saint violence, I don't know how saint and violence go together, but here he said he has deceived them. They will be acting as if all is well when we know it is not. If Otom and Ikpeazu had done well, their constituents would have voted for them. They lost because of their bad governance and not because of Southern presidency. They sacrificed nothing. Viva says, true, Otom doesn't deserve the senatorial seat. Ikpeazu too. Of the G5 governors, only Wike and Seyi Makinde performed well. If Tinubu chooses to include Wike in his cabinet, then he should consider making him a minister of works and roads, but nobody knows what the tribunals would rule. Also reacting to that is Sonny, who says, I'm a Benue indigene, and I must say that it is not Southern presidency that affected him. We love him, but on the presidential election day, some thought that it was a governorship election, and because majority like the priests contesting from the APC, that's what led to him losing the election. Now, a video making the rounds on social media of Abia State former governor Senator Orji Uzor Kalu shows that still ahead of the commencement of the 10th Assembly, Kalu is asking his party, the APC, to not only zone the office of the Senate President to the southeast, but to go ahead and open it only to his word or even his name, because that way there will be no contest to conquer.
Will I run? Yes, I'm ready to run for Senate President if the party zone it to my zone, because the party is supreme. Whether they want to zone it, they should zone it to my village, so nobody will contest it against me. I don't even want to zone it to the south. The party should zone it to Ibere in my ward. So, because I'm the only senator from there, you can manufacture another senator from another local government or from another place in Abia. So, I would like the party to zone it to me with my name. If they can do that, it will be very good, because President Tinubu needs people of high character to turn around this economy, to make sure that we work for the masses and make laws that will enable him to turn around the economy. But I can be honest with you. If we practice true democracy, I should not be in contest with anybody in this position. Because apart from the Senate President himself, Deputy Senate President Mogege, the Senate Leader Gobie, I'm the highest ranking member of the Senate.
Okay, finally on Kakaki Social today, the Nigerian police force is being dragged on the social media space for asking those calling for the arrest of MC Oluomo to take up the case themselves if they have evidence on his attacks. Now, the first public relations officer, Olumuyiwa Adejobi, was the person who said that on Twitter in a series of back and forth with a tweet who queried why Adejobi called the threat of MC Oluomo a joke. Now, it's a long story, but we will take it as it happened, starting from Ini the Beningian. So let's see. You would remember this video. Chisom posted it. It's a video from Kogi State where a local government chairman was said to be having a problem with votes that were not in favor of his party, and then he had to dish them. So Chisom posted this, and Olumuyiwa quoted him, and he says, this Kogi case is one of the cases that will be prosecuted by INEC. While the policemen in charge have been dealt with, I would compile all the cases involving policemen and share. Though many of you will still not believe us, we will be transparent and do the needful on these cases. Reacting to that is another social media user who says, your transparency is very questionable until you arrest MC Oluomo and prosecute him accordingly, then you are doing complete rubbish. Olumuyiwa, no, we have to go back there. Olumuyiwa, why am I mistaking Olumuyiwa? What was this? Then Olumuyiwa then says, your opinion, but read my reaction so far, okay? So another social media user also shared that, sharing your opinion, but read my reaction so far, and he says, sir, you are also guilty, if I may say. This is what you said in the TV interview, and I quote, MC Oluomo threat is a joke. Let's take it as a joke until he perfects the threat. I urge everyone to go out and cast their vote. So he says now Nigerians heed to your cause and they went out to vote and all of that. But some of them are still in the hospital. That's if we continue to read the thread, which is quite lengthy. But Olumuyiwa then came to say that the case, or you can take the case of attack up with MC Oluomo. Evidence of attacks against him, many people and lawyers, even the deputy governor of Lagos, Hamzat, have said it several times. He has no immunity. So, if you have a case of attack against him, take it up. Now, that was it for netizens. Like, so, from reactions, Michael is saying that, let me get it straight. What you are literally saying to Nigerians is that what MC Oluomo said in the videos and the events that occurred throughout the elections in Lagos was not criminal in any way, not even subject to questioning or investigations until we take it up with him. Dot in a circle, tweeting at Odogu Dozila says, you are in cahoots with MC Oluomo. You've done more PR for him than you've even done for your Oga at the top. MC Oluomo is the Oga of your Oga. You cannot deceive anyone on this app. Twitter again. More reactions coming in from Danesi, who says public relations posts aren't for everyone because it requires a lot of skills, most especially excellent communication and presentation skills. At this point, I just pray and I hope that one day Nigeria gets it right with all its institutions and the deflective antics are thrown into the bin. A prayer to say an amen to. More reactions coming in from Leon, who says, I usually pray Nigeria gets better for real. I believe nobody is even happy dragging this issue. All we want is justice at all levels in the society, no matter who you are. Someday we'll have justice. That's everything on Kakaki Social this morning. I'll see you again tomorrow. Don't forget you can reach out to us using our WhatsApp number. It's on 081-154-36670. Again, 081-154-36670. Adora, and very good morning to you.
Rena, zone it to me. Zone it to Igbere. Zone it to my words.
My name is my package with my name for this.
Rena is a ranking presenter for Kakaki Social Words.
Like Zonit, so this is a gift. It's my turn. Emilokon. He said when Tinubu said Emilokon, nobody came for him. But now you said Emilokon, and people are after him. It's his turn. No need for contest. I'm like, yo, the sense of entitlement.
I'm telling you. And then Wike says, Tom did well. Like Bazu says, Diva deceived him. Interesting times.
Quite a lot of.
Thank you, Rena.
Yeah. Well.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be going back to our interview shortly. We'll take a quick break and we'll return.
The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. No need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids. Milo!
Here is a new and refreshing offer for our esteemed audience across the globe. The new AIT Cloud TV is an online streaming service that offers you attractive opportunities to view our rich, exciting, and entertaining programs anytime, anywhere. AIT Cloud TV is available on the web on www.ait.app, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and Android TV. You can also download the mobile app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Simply connect to the internet, download the app, register, and watch live or catch up on unlimited hours of exciting shows. AIT Cloud TV. TV on the go.
The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. No need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps you nourish and energize your kids. Milo!
Hey, Star Times don't bring una another nyafu reward this Easter and Ramadan season. Oh, this one na extra jara, and now why we call am Season of Goodness promo. We get thousands of juicy content where you fit choose from. You and your family go fit enjoy ogbonge series on ST Novella like Three Sisters, Kiddies Channel like Cartoon and Jim Jam, plenty Nollywood channels, and many religion channels. To enjoy this offer, recharge for 2 months on Nova, Basic, or Smart Bouquet, and you get an instant boost to the next higher bouquet. Recharge 2 months on top your Classic or Super, and you go enjoy 10 days extra. This promo now from March 20, go reach April 30. No door yourself, oh. Hurry, make yourself collect your own days of goodness. Terms and conditions apply. Star Times, entertain your family.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We still have our guests here in the studio as we turn to you now to ask that you give us your concluding thoughts on the issues that we were talking earlier, particularly around the speedy dispensation of justice at the election tribunal. I'll start with you, Maxo.
Just is a general advice. I think the panel should understand the nature of Nigeria now. They should try as much as possible not to allow the council representing the parties to delay the matter unnecessarily. They can still look at all those issues that will delay the matter, thrash it out at preliminary stage, considering the fact that the tension is high. They should look at all the whole matters holistically, and they should try as much as possible to give details of all the issues raised. Because if you watch the last presidential election, issue of certificate forgery and what have you, we are raised. But during the time of judgment, some of the issues were not captured in the judgment. But it's a Supreme Court judgment, you cannot appeal against it, you cannot question it. So they should try as much as possible so that all this tension that we are experiencing here and there can come down. Then the lawyers on their own, you should know that this is your brief, not your case. Just present your case and allow the tribunal. If you have a bad case, you have a bad case. So the essence of trying to frustrate it so that the person you are representing can still be in the office or be sworn in, you continue to drag it, is uncalled for. It will go a long way of defeating the purpose of Section 285 of the Constitution. That's my parting words.
All right, Austin, how do you conclude?
First is that this is Nigeria, and Nigeria is bigger than every other person, including the institutions of Nigeria. The judiciary, particularly the Supreme Court, does have the highest level of integrity to keep Nigeria in focus and in shape. What do I mean? The judiciary must try as much as possible within the opportunity that it does have now to create that enabling environment of trust, because there's a huge trust deficit, particularly with the judiciary, because of the cases that have been settled before now. Somebody who didn't participate in the election becoming a candidate, or somebody who came forth becoming, was returned elected. Those are signals that people are going to use against the judiciary materially right now. To get that trust in focus, clear out some major cases. We have said that in those major cases, for example, interpretation of 25%, section 134, clear it out. Clear the issue of double nomination out. Clear the issue of, and then above all, televise the proceedings. Let it be transparent. Let everybody see what's happening so the trust can be built and we can have a better Nigeria going forward.
Thank you so mumuch, Osnaibe, and of course, Maxwell Okpara, who is also a lawyer, has joined us to talk about this issue. And like we said earlier, we'll be having this Leonard Silk, of course, Abakuba joining us on Friday on the show to bring us highlights and speeds, updates on this particular conversation. In the meantime, we'll take a quick break and we'll return to discuss the issue concerning the alert plans to install an interim government pronouncement that was made by the DSS on alert quarters. We'll be right back. Well, thank you for staying with us. And we told you earlier, first, the DSS alerts on alert plans to install an interim government by some political class. Now, the question is, who has the power to install that, and who has the power vantage position to, of course, call for an interim government? This conversation is what will be highlighted in our discussion with Barrister Tochukwu Hazurike, who is already with us in the studio. You're welcome, Barrister Tochukwu.
Good morning, Adara. Good morning, Pei. Good morning, Nigerians.
Thank you so much, Barrister Tochukwu, for your time. So there is a thin line, particularly between what the law says on the right to protest and the difference between legitimate protest and violence. Can you elucidate on this development?
Thank you once again. There's no thin line between a violent protest and a peaceful protest. There's no thin line. There's also no thin line between the right to protest and going ahead to do violent protests. How do I mean? The right to protest is a right to peaceful protest. That peaceful protest is inherent in your right to protest. The law could not have envisaged that you would have a right to violent protests. So your right is only restricted to the extent that your protest is peaceful and well organized. That is why, even against the provision, the judgment of court, police ask citizens to apply for permits. Okay. Right? It is not, you are by law now, you are not expected to apply for permit. You are only expected to notify the police so that they can do their duty of providing security cover for you to do your protests. Now, you can also notify agencies like the Federal Road Safety Corps so that in case you are marching, they can provide traffic control for you. Now, that is the extent of your right. Any other thing you do outside that is not your right. That means you have gone outside the purview of the provisions of the law to do what you so wish, and the consequences of that are strictly your own. So the line is not thin, it's clear. and it's broad enough for you to manage yourself. If you are not picking sticks, if you are not picking stones, cudgels to hit anything, to destroy cars, even to obstruct traffic, you are doing the right thing, and nobody has a right to stop you. So that's why sometimes when I see security agencies going to the Unity Fountain, where people are gathered in an enclosed space, just even to protest and stay there at their own risk, under the harsh weather, and you now go and disperse them forcefully, throw tear gas, and you say you have an instruction from that you have just broken the law. And
all right, Tochukwu, now some would say in the interest of national security, because you're already looking at a Nigerian space where there are, a lot of anguish from the last election. There's several kinds of conversation in between the line on the failing trust of Nigerians for the institution. And some weeks back we saw some numbers of persons, protest to say that they would rather have the military, take over Nigeria than what is happening. Then the DSS makes an alleged case of an alert on the fact that there are some people that want to, install an interim government, and blames the political class. And then you see an insinuation that there could be an arrest of Peter Obi and Dati because they have been considered to have performed treasonable acts against the country. So you look at the, graduation of thoughts from protest to allegation and now to a case of a call for arrest. How does this seem, especially for us as Nigerians, in this space of our democracy?
I'm just trying to find the best way to put my thoughts together on this, because the history of what you have just traced is not complete. The first person that talked about imposition of an interim government is Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State.
Yeah.
You understand? During the cashless policy brouhaha, he said that policy was to stop the election and then impose. Who was in charge of that cashless policy? The president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. So you said, Governor El-Rufai said that the policy being spearheaded by the president was to stop elections and then impose an interim, hand over to an interim government. The act of handing over is still an act to be performed solely by the president. So Governor Nasir El-Rufai clearly accused President Muhammadu Buhari of being behind a plot for interim government. He was that clear in his statements. So when we talk about protests, and then the question is, it was before a general election. What was the disposition of all the Nigerian security agencies, particularly the DSS now, that is shouting about raising this alarm? And it is clear, I would say to you, that the DSS was more interested in protecting a regime, and it was interested in protecting the regime, and more interested in ensuring that a particular candidate won an election, to what you are seeing now. All this, hanky-panky they are playing now is to protect an act that had been completed. The candidate they wanted for an election had won. They were not fair. They did not provide level playing ground. They did not do what they were supposed to do as a neutral security agency. They were actually partisan. So all these things happening now is not for national security. Let me tell you why. The crime of treason in military rule is firing squad, because nobody wants to see these seats they are sitting on. They don't want to leave it except by the provisions of the law. So any act that threatens you to leave it. See, over these last 8 years, I've tried to think about President Muhammadu Buhari's regime, and I asked myself, people were too afraid of President Muhammadu Buhari that he would do this, he would do that. But I said to myself, did he go out of his way to even attack opposition? No. The only time Muhammadu Buhari will attack opposition is any day they confuse him or convince him that that act is targeted at removing him from that seat. NSAS is a typical example. He allowed people to be doing their NSAS until the day he came up with the notion that the move was to remove him from his seat. Soldiers were deployed. All shenanigans of government and apparatus of government were deployed to attack people and kill. So until then, he's not interested. All he does is stay your own. See this my seat. I'm the one on it. But see this one that has come in now, or is coming in. He will not allow that one. No. So the issues are the state apparatus allowed itself to play partisan politics. I'm talking of the security agencies. They played partisan politics. Because when I hear a police officer as a spokesman of the Nigeria police tell me that a video where MC Olomo was addressing young people, that in the last election we allowed them, but this one, anyhow you want, you know, and you now tell me it was a joke. Who told you that that man seated on his seat in his palace was not cracking a joke with his people in his cabinet or something, or to whoever he was speaking? Who told you it wasn't a joke? Who now defines what is a joke or not, what is not a joke? MC Olomo has never been known in Nigeria as a stand-up comedian. So how can he say something in that mood, and what he joked about, in quotes, if I will accept it was a joke, now came to pass, and you still tell me? So it was a prophetic joke. The issues are simple.
He said it was just a threat until an action was verified against him. Imagine that was his frame of thought.
See, MC Olomo made clear threats, and those threats were carried out by the people he spoke to. He asked people to do a thing, and they did that thing. It's enough. You know, what further proof do you need? You don't need further proof. So the thing is this. All this, there is no interim government anything. They know. The DSS knows. There is no interim government anything. The only person that can do interim government, see that one Erufai said, is the only possible one. That the man sitting on the seat says, I don't want to yield this seat to Adora. I want to yield it to Perry. Adora wins an election, and I say no, and I hand it over to Perry and go my way. That is how interim government can come. That a few people are marching on the streets, and they are saying, no, but it was okay. Let's leave, because if I want to say it was justified because of the infractions in the election, people may say, no, now, but can it? Yes, because I personally, Tochukwu Hazurike, I believe that the best military government is worse than the worst democratic governments.
That the word come again? That the best
military government is worse than the best military government is worse than the worst democratic government.
Why do you say that?
This is democracy. That's why Tochukwu Hazurike can sit here and run his mouth. Under military, I'll be yanked out from this seat on live TV now, and that may be the last the world will hear of me. That is the basic right in a democracy. Freedom of expression, freedom of thought. Under military, you are told what to think. So, that is where people are marching on the streets should show the government that citizens were actually disappointed. But that is not a justification for calling for making that prayer in front of Ministry of Defense. So, for me, they crossed a line that, no, decent people shouldn't cross. Don't go near there. Because the losses in a military government are worse. So what we should be doing in our anger that these elections were not free and fair is finding ways, charting courses that will improve the process. Not to say, okay, since you don't want it, let's scatter everywhere. Scattering everywhere is not a solution. Improve the process. What can be done to improve the process? Nigerians laid down their lives to make sure we had an electoral act 2022. That act is good. But the institutions of state, the governors, see this last governorship election, they just sat down. Everybody was compromised, and the cashless policy now had to work again. So instead of not giving money like they used to do to buy votes, they now packed the money together and gave it to a few individuals who were conducting these elections, and they decided to do what they wanted to do. You see states where INEC officials there will be giving money, and they will just be announcing results. Go to the IREV, calculate in constituencies what is on the IREV. It's different from what was announced. And I asked myself, do you need further proof? The IREV has stated the result. You go there, you see all the polling unit results. You add them. It will give you a different political party will win based on all the results on the IREV. But the official there will announce, and I ask myself, does the police need further proof to arrest the person, conclude this investigation? The law is clear, the Electoral Act is clear that announcing a result that is different from what is on the result sheet, you are on your way to prison. These are the low-hanging fruits that if citizens had seen, that the system is carrying out now, they will be like, oh, at least there is some little ray of hope. But when everybody sits down, crosses their legs, looking at citizens, say, don't worry, they'll get tired of protesting. Times will come. That was the mistake Jonathan made in 2014 April, when the BBOG started. Don't worry, after 1 week, they'll get tired. The sun is too much. One day, rain will chase them. One day. It's not true, it didn't work. Until the thing gathered momentum and turned to a global issue. They are doing it again. And those people, every day you pass Unity Fountain, they are there. And you will see that they are not hired people. Because if they were hired, they will, today somebody will take an excuse. When they get their money, they move. But those people are committed citizens. The question the system should be asking is, what did we do wrong? How can we right it? Even if we cannot do all right now, what can we do to show that this system has not collapsed? But as it is, this system has collapsed. President Muhammadu Buhari, all the promises he made, the one he made here, though very few, all his promises are abroad, and the ones he made before the United Nations, the world now sees it clearly that he failed on all of them. He did not give us, he did not bequeath to Nigeria free, fair, credible elections, like he said, and like he promised. Citizens died, and actually, the system is not working, and he's sitting down watching. And he has repeatedly said, I'm too eager to leave. So he's not even interested. President Muhammadu Buhari, as we speak, is just waiting for May 29, and then he will exit. He's not interested in anything that happens. So citizens are on their own. I tell people, just protect yourself, because you don't have a president now that can activate any actions for you. Just sit down quietly. Just wait until May 29. This one will leave. We'll start another struggle for what happens from May 29. But definitely, there will be a struggle for what happens post May 29. Because the person that will be sitting on that seat will have a very big question of legitimacy of why he should be on that seat.
Well, with no act intended, but this, of course, is laced with current realities at the moment, and of course, for the purpose of knowledge, as we speak here, what do you think is in a vantage position, to use the word install an interim government?
El-Rufai has said who it is, and that is the only person that can do it. He is the commander-in-chief. Is it Tochukwu Azuike that will stand up here? One recruit will finish me immediately once he's given instruction. So the only person that can do it is the president of the Federal Republic. But from the way, I think they now saw it, they attacked him, blackmailed his government, did everything. He now withheld himself from maybe. Initially, it was believed that he was not supporting Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. For a president to be so intimidated that after voting against the provisions of the law, he raised his ballot. I bet me not kill me. See, I vote for her. That was expression on the face of the president. A President Muhammadu Buhari you used to know since 1983 as head of state, we vote and show it to the world. Who doesn't trust people much that even his wife was voting? He wanted to be sure you are voting for me. We will now vote and show it to the world. I said, I beg, may not kill me. See, I vote for her. That was exactly what the president did. He was so intimidated. And he knew that the only people that could do anything about interim government are one, his party members, those around him in the villa, those he has appointed in offices, who in opposition can work from wherever and walk into maybe one mechanized division, 82 mechanized, and tell the GOC there, you see, it's not true. Those people have their loyalties, maybe the person that suggested their names to the president for appointment and stuff. Those are the people they can listen to. And when these things happen, he knows that the only people, El-Rufai correctly said, that the only people that can do it is, in quotes, there is a president and there is presidency. It's the presidency. The presidency are those people who you hear in the media where he has the ear of the president in his pocket. Those are the people. But not an ordinary citizen that is standing in the sun and in the rain, marching and carrying flag and placard. You say he wants to buy military government easy. It's not easy. It's not easy.
All right, talking about opposition, I mean, they described this as a covert plan by the APC to perhaps subvert the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal going ahead, and for them, that's the first entry point.
See the tribunal in the states and the Court of Appeal, the kind of intimidation they will face to protect what has happened, the kind of intimidation INEC will face to protect what has happened will be unimaginable. Let me explain. there are issues before that have been raised in the petitions by Atiku and Peter Obi that should be trashed at one sitting. How? You don't need, before the electoral act expected you to call any polling unit you want to challenge. You will call a witness from that polling unit. There are over 176,000 polling units. Now, you go to court as a petitioner, you file INEC against INEC, the political party that was declared winner, and maybe the candidate that was declared winner. At least 3 parties, at least 3 respondents. Now, when you present your witness to prove that something, the 3 of them are entitled to cross-examine that witness. This thing may take time. So before you prove substantial number of those polling units, your 6 months maximum time will elapse. So there are innovations now in the Electoral Act that warrants that you don't call witnesses. Okay, let me give you a typical example. Peter Obi says President Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not qualified to contest. Kashim Shettima is not qualified to contest. Kashim Shettima, APC had a placeholder. Let me use this typical one. APC had a placeholder. Everybody was aware of that. As at the time that placeholder was there, Kashim Shettima had contested for Borno Central senatorial seat and won, and was the candidate of APC for Borno Central. Now, the placeholder was removed. He was now drafted in to be the vice presidential candidate of APC. On the 15th of, I think that should be June, when he was drafted in, he now signed. The placeholder dropped his ticket on the 14th of June. The placeholder dropped the ticket, and Kashim Shettima picked it on the 14th of June. As at that night of 14th of June, while Kashim Shettima was going to bed, in one hand, he was having the senatorial ticket of Borno Central, and in the other hand, he had just picked the ticket for vice presidency for the APC. So on the 14th night, when he was going to bed, he had the 2. Then on the 15th, he now said, okay, having thought about it with my wife and my family over there all through the night, I think I prefer the vice presidential ticket to the senatorial ticket. Then on the 15th, he now called somebody and said, hey, take this one, give it back to them. I don't need it. The question is, did you at any point hold both tickets? The facts are there. The papers submitted to INEC are there. Does the court need witnesses for that? Why can't the court just dismiss? See that one? Dismiss the issue of whether Tinubu was convicted in US or not. Trash that one. Then, by the time these preliminaries are, you now go into the conduct of the election, whether there was substantial compliance or substantial non-compliance. You can now be calling witnesses, but trash out these ones so that we narrow down what we are looking at. Or you leave it.
Thank you so much, Barrister Ohazuwike, for your thoughts. I'm sure that would bring you again to actually dwell more on these issues in light of the realities. Thank you for your time.
Always my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Let's remind you again that Friday we will be having the Leonard Silk also here on the show, Lisa Wakoba, to discuss this extensively on Friday. But in the meantime, we'll take a quick break, and to lighten things up, we'll bring you entertainment.
Welcome to Entertainment and Lifestyle. I am Chidera Ezudoi.
If you train a girl child, you train a nation. This alone will tell us how important a girl child is in our society.
The values embedded in educating the girl child has been emphasized in a book titled Present Reflection, as authored by an educationist, Ogechi Ugwuanyi. Speaking at the launch of the book in Abuja, the author Ugwuanyi harped on the importance of educating the girl child to be impactful to the society.
When it comes to children, I'm highly motivated. I love children. Children love me as well. I always want to be around them, and I want them to be the best. So when it comes to creative, I read a lot of books and I watch a lot of things, and I find out that outside there, not just in Africa, there are so many children doing wonderful things, even children as young as 2. Of course, when you watch YouTube videos, you see these things. So I was amazed. I was like, what is happening? We have talents in Nigeria. What's happening? Is it that we don't have an enabling environment or something? So I decided to create a book club, Global Reader Book Club, and I didn't want them to pass through that stress. I wanted to create an enabling environment where children can express themselves.
She described the book Present Reflection as an intriguing poetry put together in different themes for easy learning.
So I think it has to be intentional parenting. There are so many parents out there honestly don't have time for their children. Even when their children are exhibiting some traits of something tangible, but they feel, oh no, just go to school. When you get to university, you do something, but no, that's not what I teach children. I tell them you can be something now, and that's why I want them to document in written form.
The parents are the first socializing agents that the children grow up with and trust, and so on. I have 2 daughters myself. So if you start early, inculcating into them the importance of reading and exploring the world around them, a world of ideas, getting to know their own mind, the power of their own intellect, and so on, then you free them to become whatever they can be in life.
The author's daughter, Treasure Ugwuanyi, also published a novel on cleanliness and hygiene titled 3 Smelly Underwear.
I used to write when I was 3 years old. Parents need to care for their children so they don't get germs and fall sick.
The 5-year-old author said, I have fallen in love with writing since when I was 3 years old, and my novel, 3 Smelly Underwear, focuses on raising awareness for children's personal hygiene so they don't get germs and fall sick. Burna Boy's July 8 Love Damini World Tour will hold at the Citi Field Baseball Stadium, New York City, United States. Stops at Paris La Défense, London Stadium, and Jory Dome in Amsterdam. Burna Boy's Citi Field stop, being produced by Live Nation, falls on the 1st anniversary of the singer's latest album, Love Damini. The album has picked a number 2 spot on Billboard's World Album Chart and has received a 2023 Grammy nomination for the Best Global Music Album. In April 2022, the Last singer became the first Nigerian act. Nigerian music art Habib Okikiola, also known as Portable, has been released from the Ilaro Correctional Center, Ogun State, having fulfilled his bail conditions. Legal team representing the singer made this known to AIT via a telephone chat, disclosing that the singer has fulfilled his bail conditions and released to go home. Chief Magistrate Aina Soneye has admitted the defendant to a bail of 300,000 naira for the first charge, with 2 sureties in like sum owning properties within the jurisdictions of the case, and 1 being a relative of the defendant, while the second charge is 500,000 naira with sureties in like sum. Portable had earlier on Monday been remanded at the Ilaro Correctional Center, Ogun State, pending the fulfillment of his bail conditions. He is standing trial on 2 charges bordering on assault, stealing, and resisting arrest, contrary to the sections 517, 351, and 197 of the Criminal Code laws of Ogun State. Mixed reactions have been trailing the conversion of Nollywood actress Mercy Ayibe from Christianity to Islam. Ayibe made known her new faith at the Ramadan lecture and special prayers event, jointly hosted by her and her hubby, Kazeem Adeoti, in Lagos at the weekend. In a viral video interview, the actress also revealed her new name as Mina.
Inshallah, my new name is Ajia Mina Mercy Adeoti. Mina with the H.
The actress also hinted on plans to proceed on holy pilgrimage to Mecca, Saudi Arabia. Nollywood actors Adebayo Salami, popularly known as Ogabelo, Fathia Balogun, Kemi Afolabi, Femi Adebayo, among others, graced the Ramadan lecture in honor of Mercy. Recall Mercy Ayube in 2022 got married to popular filmmaker Kazeem Adeoti as her second wife.
God is good. Yes, God is good. Do something for the Lord. God is miraculous.
Nigerian comic arts skit maker Emmanuel Ejeku, popularly known as Augusta Binus, has emerged the African Content Creator of the Year at the Rwandan International Film Awards 2023.
This award, I want to say I'm giving out this award to my mom, my dad, my family, and also to my beautiful wife. She's here. She's very shy. She's shy, yeah. And also to Nigeria, my country, and my city, Port Harcourt City.
The Rwanda International Movie Awards, which is held annually, is aimed at celebrating not just Rwandan filmmakers, producers, actors, cinematographers, but African creatives and professionals whose works have continued to impact Africa's film industry. Augusta Benis took to social media to celebrate his win. We won Africa Content Creator Award at the Rwanda International Movie Awards 2023. Thanks for the support, my lovely fans.
The winner of Big Brother Titans Season 1 is
The maiden edition of the reality TV show Big Brother Titans, a fusion of South African and Nigerian contestants, has come to a close in Johannesburg, South Africa. 24 contestants logged it out in the Big Brother house for 78 days to win the grand prize of $100,000 cash and other consolation prizes. Finally, a winner has emerged, 25-year-old Kosi Twala, a South African journalist, model, and fitness expert. Kosi, who was the first housemate to be introduced into the Big Brother house on Sunday 15th January 2023, when the show commenced, has been up for possible eviction weekly till the final week of eviction in the competition. Kosi, alongside housemates Ipileng, Ebubu, Kananga Jr., Tashi, and Yvonne, are the 6 finalists for the Zikala Wahala theme of the edition of this reality TV show. South African's Ipileng came 6th, Nigerian Ebubu was the 5th position, in the 4th position was Nigeria's Yvonne, while South African's Tashi came 3rd. Nigeria's Kananga Jr. came close in 2nd position to Kosi, who was crowned the ultimate winner of the Big Brother Titans competition. Nigerian singer Mayokun spiced up the evening with an electrifying live performance of his hit single Certified Loner to entertain viewers.
I'm a certified loner, certified loner. Somebody get that for me.
That's Season Entertainment and Lifestyle. I am Chidera Ezudoye.
Well, I don't know if a lot of people watch the Big Brother that much in this season. The Zikala Wahala perhaps had the Wahala of 2020.
Yo, what's up, my wonderful people? I hope you people understand everything that's been said on this very, very news by Adora, Sydney, Jackie, and her compatriot. His name is very difficult for me to mention, but whichever way it is, I hope you understand everything that is being spoken or that been analyzed on this very, very news platform or this situation room. So my people, as you don't watch finish, I hope you like what you see. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification button so that you'll be notified this time we go live or post something new on this channel or another channel related to Okute Daily Talk. This news is very, very clean and clear for every understanding out there. So my people, make sure you always come back or always visit my channel for more work, for more news, because I'll be giving it to you the way you like it. This is my channel, Okute Daily News. Have a nice day, my people. Until we meet again, so that I will be bringing you more interesting videos. Have a nice day. Bye for now. Kemesiano.